Chapter 682. The Yen family lord. After hearing what the white-robed old man had said, a sliver of interest flashed across the middle-aged man's eyes. However, he quickly concealed it and said helplessly, Jin Feng, this time I can only apologize. Jianchen actually has the great elder of Mercenary City supporting him from behind, and even the two ancient clans aren't his opponents, let alone my small Yen family. Please forgive me for being incapable of action. The middle-aged man was the Yen family lord, and also the only saint ruler of the Yen family. His strength had already reached the peak of the fourth heavenly layer, and was stronger than either one of the saint rulers from the Hongfu clan. In law, regarding Jianchen, you do not need to worry at all. Although I don't know what relationship Jianchen has with Huang Tianba, but other than offending Jianchen because of the tungsten alloy mine, we have no other animosity. I believe that just by this, it is not enough for Jianchen to antagonize my Hongfu clan enmity. As long as the two of us personally visit him and apologize sometime, it should be able to clear off any enmity created a few days ago, transforming our hostility into friendship. What really makes my Hongfu clan worried is Huang Tianba. The hatred between the Huang family and my Hongfu clan was formed by people of the previous generation. Although we two groups have not had any large-scale clashes in the recent years, we still have constant small conflicts in secret. Both sides have suffered losses, so as a result, the hatred between us has become very deep, which cannot be resolved peacefully at all. This time, if in-law helps me wipe out the Huang family, I will gift my dragon-slaying sword to you. The saint ruler of the Hongfu clan, Jin Tian, said. As soon as he finished speaking, a meter-long sword with a width of 2 fingers appeared in his hand. The entire sword was covered in a layer of hazy, glimmering light, and a blurry image of the sword could be vaguely seen through the layer. The entire sword was veined, and if it was looked at closely, the veins actually hegemonic, flying black dragon. The Yen family lord's interest was indeed piqued. He hesitated for a while, but still declined in the end. He said, Perhaps the matter is not as easy as you have thought. According to my investigations, a girl from the Huang family was originally engaged to the Huanggu clan, but afterwards, it was because of the appearance of Jianchen that the Huang family personally cancelled it. As a result, I feel that Jianchen and the Huang family's relationship is more complicated than you have imagined. My Yen family definitely cannot intervene in this. There is the great elder of Mercenary City supporting Jianchen from behind, and he seems to also have some connections with the ancient Tianmu clan. Also, considering how terrifying his talent is, he is someone my Yen family cannot afford to offend. In-law, the two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan became worried. Just as Jin Feng attempted to persuade him, he was cut off by the Yen family lord. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, you should stop persuading me anymore. I know very well as to how much my Yen family can do. The relationship between Jianchen and the Huang family is complicated, and they may even have treated you as a common enemy. My Yen family definitely cannot intervene. Today, I have come personally to visit because I have something very important to tell the two of you. The engagement between our two families is cancelled. From today onwards, our two families will go their separate way. Matters regarding your Hongfu clan have nothing to do with my Yen family anymore. The Yen family lord said. The expressions of the two Hongfu clan saint rulers simultaneously became extremely ugly. They did not only did they fail to pull the Yen family in to face an enemy, they had instead cut off their relationship with the Yen family. This was extremely unfavorable for the Hongfu clan. Yen Jingnan, you came today to cancel the engagement? Jin Tian's expression was unpleasant. The Yen family lord sighed. He had an expression of helplessness and said quietly, I wish you can understand, my Yen family still needs to survive. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, why don't the two of you come out quickly? Today, the enmity between my Huang family and your Hongfu clan will reach an utter conclusion. Suddenly, a loud and clear voice pierced through various obstacles to clearly resound in the room. The sound wave was so strong that it had caused the entire secret room to slightly tremble. It's Huang Tianba, that old bastard's voice. He actually came knocking on our door personally. The expression of the two saint rulers became extremely unpleasant. The Hongfu clan and the Huang family had been locked in a stalemate for countless years, and during that time, neither of them dared to allow any large-scale conflicts to erupt. This was because the strength of the two groups were very similar, and once they began fighting, no one had confidence in absolute victory. However, today, Huang Tianba actually showed up on his own accord. Even without thinking, they knew he definitely brought foreign aid and was extremely confident. "Looks like my visit today really was untimely," the Yan family lord said with some remorse, before immediately leaving the secret room. Outside the Hongfu clan manor, the originally peaceful manor immediately became bustling with noise after Huang Tianba's loud declaration. Over 1,000 Hongfu clan members gathered outside, with each one raising their head to look at the three people who floated high up in the air. They all talked about it, and many of them were filled with terror. "They're people of the Huang family. They've come for revenge." The people of the Huang family have actually come and called out the names of the two grand elders. "They must be powerful saint rulers. Quick, go report it to Clan Lord. The ancestor of the Huang family has come himself." "What use is there reporting it to the Clan Lord? Hurry up and get the two grand elders. Hurry up and give the orders, make the entire clan take guard. The Huang family wants to battle with our Hongfu clan. They definitely brought a lot of people." The comments made by the members of the Hongfu clan mixed with the commands several higher-ranking people, which caused the entire manor to fall into a hubbub. The groups of people in the manor moved about, with all the powerful members heading off in all directions to prevent the invasion of a large number of troops. Closely afterwards, 3 people flew out from the back of the Hongfu clan manor. Their speed was extremely quick, so with only a flash, they had traversed several kilometers and appeared high up in the sky, opposite of Jian Qin, Nubis, and Huang Tianba. The 3 people were the 2 saint rulers of the Hongfu clan and the Yan family lord. However, when the 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan saw Jian Qin and the gold-clothed Nubis standing by Huang Tianba, their expressions became extremely ugly. "Looks like my guess is correct. Jian Qin and the Huang family's relationship really isn't simple and has basically reached a level where they treat the Hongfu clan as a common enemy." The Yan family mumbled inwardly. The simultaneous arrival of Jian Qin and Nubis with Huang Tianba had his guess. Huang Tianba swept his gaze coldly across the people before him and said with a cold smile, Jin Feng, you were right a few days ago. The grievances between our 2 families has gone on for too long, and it is about time to resolve it." Huang Tianba's gaze landed on the Yan family lord. "Yan family lord, do you plan on fighting alongside with the Hongfu clan?" Hearing what was said, the Yan family lord's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly moved away from the 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan and smiled apologetically. "Today, I purposely came to dissolve the engagement with the Hongfu clan and do not want to battle alongside with the Hongfu clan. Huang Tianba, you must not misunderstand this. From today onwards, matters of the Hongfu clan no longer have anything to do with my Yan family." The Yan family lord already knew that the Hongfu clan was beyond salvation, so he put it harshly, directly severing his connection to the Hongfu clan. "Brother Jian Qin, a few days ago, I have offended you very much. I am aware of my mistake, and wish that Brother Jian Qin can be the bigger person and forgive the stupid things I have done in my ignorance. I will definitely bring generous gifts and personally visit to apologize in the future." The Yan family lord's tone was euphemistic and extremely sincere, completely foregoing his identity as the lord of a family. This was because in his heart, if he could erase Jian Qin's discontent for the Yan family, he could even give up his position as the family lord. After all, Jian Qin was someone he definitely could not offend. Seeing how sincere the Yan family lord was, Jian Qin did not act pettily and said straightforwardly, "As long as the Yan family lord does not interfere with the matters today, as well as guarantee that you will not treat us with hostility in the future, the small matters from a few days ago can be wiped off the slate." Hearing what Jian Qin had said, the Yan family lord became overjoyed at the unexpected, good outcome. He laughed aloud. "Good, for Brother Jian Qin to be so frank, I feel admiration. I'm definitely making you a friend of mine. Brother Jian Qin, my Yan family is situated on Mount Shushi several tens of thousand kilometers away. If there is anything in the future that our Yan family can help with, feel free to ask. As long as my Yen family has the power, we will definitely not shy away from it and help you with all of our ability. Chapter 683, Chasing to Kill. The Yen family lord knew exactly how powerful Jianchen was, as well as the fact that his talent was currently unprecedented on the Tianyuan continent and his future prospects would be inconceivable. As a result, as soon as the chance appeared, he would immediately attempt to ingratiate himself with Jianchen, unwilling to miss any chances of developing a good relationship with Jianchen. The Yen family lord is too polite. In the future, if Jianchen has any areas that would require help, then I would have to trouble the Yen family. Jianchen looked at the Yen family lord with a smile and his hands clasped. He did not turn down the Yen family lord's attempt to curry favor, as after all, the Yen family was a hermit family that possessed a powerful saint ruler and could not be so easily ignored. If he maintained a relationship with those types of families, no matter if it was for him, the Changyang clan or the Flame mercenaries, it was definitely a good thing. It's not troublesome at all. My Yen family is extremely willing to help Brother Jianchen handle matters within our ability. The Yen family laughed without restraint, seeming to be extremely happy. Brother Jianchen, I will not be delaying you any further. The Yen family just happens to have some small matters that require me to resolve, so I will be leaving first. In the future, if Brother Jianchen has the time, Brother Jianchen is welcome to come visit my Yen family as a guest. The Yen family lord did not stay for long, and left as soon as he said his farewells to Jianchen. The two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan watched the Yen family lord leave with gloomy expressions. When the Yen family lord severed his relationship with them at this crucial moment, it caused the two of them to be extremely mad, but they felt completely helpless. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, our two families have already been locked in constant strife for several thousand years. It should completely end today. Huang Tianba looked at the two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan with a cold smile, while in his hand, a golden longbow had already appeared. It was a ruler armament, the Solunar Bow. However, Jin Tian and Jin Feng did not pay any attention to Huang Tianba. One of them looked at Jianchen. Jianchen, regarding what had happened a few days ago with the tungsten alloy mine, the two of us indeed have gone overboard. We will sincerely apologize to you right here, so we wish that you will not interfere between matters of our Hongfu clan and the Huang family. As long as you and this dear friend stand down, the two of us will gift you a ruler armament. How you feel about this, Jianchen? Hearing what was said, the corner of Jianchen's lips curled into a scornful cold smile. However, he did not say anything. Seeing how Jianchen did not reply, a saint ruler of the Hongfu clan continued, Jianchen, if you feel unsatisfied about the offer, we can add an additional condition. In the future, my Hongfu clan will help you do 3 things under any conditions, as long as they fall under our ability. Does this satisfy you? Jin Tian, Jian Feng, what you've done just now really has broadened my horizons. Who would have thought you would actually have thoughts like this? However, I'd persuade you to give up on this. How can Brother Jianchen be roped into your side with just these cheap bargains? Huang Tianba laughed. He looked at the two saint rulers, his gaze full of ridicule. Senior Huang has put it well. The two of you should give up on this. Jianchen conformed to what Huang Tianba had said. The expressions of the two saint rulers changed. What if we gift 2 ruler armaments to you? We only need you, Jianchen, and that brother to stand down and not interfere with what's happening between our Hongfu clan and the Huang family. This time, the two saint rulers did not hold back at all. They understood very well that if Jianchen and newbies worked together with Huang Tianba, they had no chance of victory even with the ruler armaments. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, quit rambling. When we kill the 2 of you, won't the 2 ruler armaments you possess end up in our hands anyway? Take this. Huang Tianba said with a cold smile, before directly drawing the longbow. A golden energy arrow quickly formed, before turning into a ray of golden light, shooting towards one of them like a bolt of lightning. The 2 saint rulers already knew that the arrows shot by the Solunar Bow could not be dodged. Their reactions were not slow, drawing their ruler armaments at the same time. The 2 ruler armaments radiated with a dazzling light, and the aftershock from the great energy that flowed out from the ruler armaments caused the surrounding space to greatly distort. Closely afterwards, the two swung their ruler armaments simultaneously, shooting out two great streams of energy to block the incoming golden energy arrow. Bang! The golden energy arrow and the energy from the two ruler armaments clashed mid-air, giving off a great, deafening bang. The aftereffects from gathering the great amounts of energy wreaked havoc everywhere. It were as if a violent gust of wind suddenly began to blow in the air, and between the two groups, the space had been shattered, creating a fist-sized black hole. However, it returned to as it was before with the blink of an eye. With every clashing of the powerful Saint Rulers, it contained the power capable of moving and destroying the earth. Every time they clashed, the powerful aftershocks created from the great energy would affect the manor below. The ground which the manor stood on immediately began to crack and fissure, with several buildings collapsing one after another. With the blink of an eye, the originally untouched manor had become a mess. Your distinguished self, the great newbies, their power is around the same, so keep any one of them busy. Brother Jianchen, we should work together to kill one. Huang Tianba's tone seemed to carry some excitement. The 1,000-year-old enmity that always weighed on the Huang family's chest was about to be put to an end, so it moved him very much inside. Leave that person on the right for me to handle. Newbies clenched his fist, and in the next moment, there was only a flash of golden light. He disappeared from where he originally was, directly rushing at Jin Feng, who wielded a long spear. Senior Huang, use the ruler armament to keep him busy. I'll go over and handle him. Jianchen said to Huang Tianba, before rushing towards Jin Tian, who wielded a sword. Before, when he still had not become a Saint Ruler, he had the ability to match up with a Saint Ruler of the fourth heavenly layer. Now that he had already become a Saint Ruler, Jianchen urgently wanted to try out his current strength. Brother Jianchen, be careful of the ruler armament in his hands. You must not take it head-on. Huang Tianba was unable to stop him even if he wanted to, so he could only warn him. The two Saint Rulers of the Hongfu clan became extremely solemn. Glancing at the manor that had already fallen into an utter mess below, the two immediately seemed to have a tacit understanding. Turning into a flash, the two of them borrowed the spatial force to quickly flee far away. Want to run? Not that easy. Newbies sneered and followed closely, using spatial force to chase Jin Feng. Jianchen did not hesitate, and also used spatial force to closely chase after Jin Tian. However, Jin Tian had reached a greater level of comprehension, which meant that his level of understanding for the spatial force far exceeded Jianchen's. As a result, he pulled ahead by several kilometers just in the blink of an eye. Huang Tianba stood where he was before, slowly drawing the longbow in a calm and composed fashion. He directly shot out an invisible energy arrow. The energy arrow was formed from the world energy. It was invisible and formless, completely undetectable to the naked eye. The arrow formed from world energy tightly locked onto Jin Tian's presence. It seemed to even possess the power to teleport through space. It chased after Jin Tian with an even greater speed, immediately traversing several dozen kilometers, arriving behind Jin Tian. Chapter 684, Punch. Feeling how he was about to be hit by the invisible arrow, Jin Tian did not run any further. He immediately stopped, and the saint force within him surged violently like a wild river, flowing into his ruler armament. It caused the sword-shaped ruler armament in his hand to glow with dazzling light, even causing the scorching sun in the sky to seem dim. The great, vast energy caused the world to tremble, and the surrounding space seemed to almost shatter in attempt to contain the powerful energy. Ha! Jin Tian suddenly yelled aloud, and the ruler armament in his hand turned into a ray of silver light. It flashed like lightning as he swung it, cutting open a 3-meter-long, black crack in the space in front of him. Bang! The ruler armament and the invisible arrow formed from world force rammed into each other, and a sound greater than before erupted forth. The violent energy aftershocks flooded the area, causing the space within a radius of several hundred meters to become heavily distorted. After the strike, Jin Tian's complexion immediately began to pale somewhat. A quiet, muffled grunt came out through his throat with difficulty as he flew backwards uncontrollably. Jin Tian already received some internal injuries. Although he and Huang Tianba both had ruler armaments, it was not enough to bridge the huge gap between their power. The arrow shot out by Huang Tianba was also created from World Force, a power that could not be compared to Saint Force. As a result, just from the first time they had clashed, Jin Tian already received a few light injuries. Jin Tian shot through the sky like a shooting star, flying backwards for a whole several kilometers before slowly stabilizing himself. He looked at Huang Tianba, who was currently chasing behind him, with an ugly expression. The light in his eyes flickered, and he muttered inwardly, "The two of us definitely are not opponents to Huang Tianba and the other two. If we continue, there is only death. Whatever, there's always hope when there's life. Staying alive is most important. As long as I am still alive, even if the Hongfu clan falls, I can just rebuild it in the future." Jin Tian already lost all intention to battle and thoughts of retreat bloomed. However, just when Jin Tian made up his mind to flee with all his strength without any more regardless for other things, the space before him began to fluctuate. He only saw that Jian Chen, who had also used spatial force, had already caught up, with a fist directly heading towards his head. Jian Chen's punch was extremely ordinary. It did not contain the presence of any force, and seemed just like a powerless fist. However, it was exactly such an ordinary-looking punch that had caused Jin Tian to become solemn, unwilling to underestimate it even in the slightest. This was because he could clearly feel that the surrounding space in which Jian Chen's fist had passed through seemed to be squeezed by a great power. Jin Tian did not dare to be careless. Saint Force coalesced in his hand like a great surging river, and he swung it at Jian Chen. He did not hold back at all with the strike, directly using his full power. When the punches met each other, a muffled sound erupted, similar to muffled thunder. The violent energy aftershock exploded where their fists had met, rushing wildly in all directions. It seemed to even be able to create a gust of violent wind in a land beyond the 9 heavens. The bones of Jin Tian's entire left arm became fractured, and his arm drooped down powerlessly. How is this possible? Just what is this force actually so strong? Jin Tian stared at Jian Chen out of shock, and his face was engulfed by disbelief. He could clearly feel that in Jian Chen's fist, there was actually an extremely strong and unknown, mysterious power hidden. The power was far stronger than the Saint Force he used. The moment the two came in contact, the Saint Force that covered his entire left arm was scattered by the mysterious but powerful power. Jian Chen curled the corner of his lips into a cold smile and said, "For someone who is about to die, there is no harm in telling you. At least it can let you die with content. This type of power is called chaotic force." Chaotic force? Jin Tian mumbled quietly. His face was shrouded with doubt. It was very obvious that he had never heard of chaotic force. However, Jian Chen did not give him any time to react. Chaotic force surged into every corner of his body, which caused the insane defense of chaotic force to be raised to the limit. Afterwards, he swung at Jin Tian again. Jin Tian returned to his senses very quickly, immediately retreating abruptly. The ruler armament in his right hand radiated brightly, becoming similar to the scorching sun radiating its dazzling light into the world. Afterwards, he chopped at Jian Chen's punch like lightning. Chapter 685. Acquiring the ruler armament. Brother Jian Chen, be careful of the ruler armament in his hands. You mustn't take it head-on. Huang Tianba's warning flashed through Jian Chen's mind. However, facing the ruler armament that was currently rushing at him, Jian Chen did not intend to dodge in the slightest. Only a sliver of madness flashed through his eyes while a great amount of chaotic force poured out of his chaotic Naiden, coalescing in his right fist. He directly swung the fist at the incoming ruler armament. This time, Jian Chen wanted to forcefully fend off the powerful ruler armament with his own flesh. This was because he was extremely confident in the defense of his chaotic body. Also, even with Jin Tian's strength in the 3rd heavenly layer paired with the ruler armament, it was still around the 4th heavenly layer, similar to the sect of dragon and tigers Siduqing. It was definitely not as strong as the 5th heavenly layer, So even though such an attack could injure Jianchen, it definitely could not heavily injure him. Jianchen, you're looking to die yourself. Seeing how Jianchen actually wanted to use his body to forcefully block the ruler armament, Jin Tian's mouth curled into a sneer. This was because the power of the ruler armament was so strong that even someone in the sixth heavenly layer would not dare to receive it head-on, let alone Jianchen, whose strength was far from that. Bang! Jianchen's punch collided firmly with the edge of the ruler armament and actually gave off a sound of metal striking rock. Jianchen's fist did not even seem like a body part, but some type of extremely tough metal. The fist and ruler armament separated as soon as they collided, actually rebounding from the great energy. As for the two people, they also shot backwards from the strong rebound energy, finally stabilizing themselves after traveling over 100 meters. All that could be seen was the horrifying injury on Jianchen's right fist. It was bone deep and had traveled halfway through his fingers. Fresh blood dyed his entire hand red. Over 100 meters away, Jin Tian stared at Jianchen's hand with his eyes full of surprise. He exclaimed in disbelief, "This? How is this possible? What is your hand made of? The body of humans can never be this strong. I had even used a ruler armament, and it didn't even chop off your arm. This is impossible." Looking at Jin Tian in shock, Jianchen could not help but reveal a sneer. He glanced at his bloody hand and with a slight thought, the chaotic force spewed out from the chaotic Niden in his dantian. Afterwards, it quickly flowed into his right hand. At that moment, the destructive chaotic force seemed to turn into an extremely regenerative life force, actually healing the injury on Jianchen's hand with a speed that had even exceeded Radiant Saint Force. Jianchen's chaotic body possessed very great regeneration abilities, but after using chaotic force for a period of time, Jianchen had already discovered that it had other, wondrous uses. If chaotic force was gathered around an injury, it would make the injury regenerate even faster. The injury on Jianchen's right hand actually healed at a visible rate. Whether it was his skin or his finger bones that were almost broken, they all completely healed. The fresh blood on his hand even seemed to come alive, slowly withdrawing itself into the wound on the hand. Jin Tian's eyes had already become the size of bells, staring directly at Jianchen's palm. He had lived so long, yet this was the first time he had ever seen such an unimaginable sight. After a few breaths, Jianchen's right hand completely recovered and seemed no different from usual. There were not even any marks left by the blood. This is impossible. This is impossible. This is definitely impossible. Shock erupted in Jin Tian's heart as he mumbled at a loss. Even though he was a saint ruler, he was still deeply astonished by the extremely weird sight he had just seen. Just when Jin Tian was at a loss, a small ripple in space suddenly appeared in front of him. An arrow completely composed of the energy of the world had already arrived before him without any sign, directly piercing through Jin Tian's chest. A finger-sized hole appeared on Jin Tian's chest and quickly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it had expanded to the size of a fist, passing through his chest. Bright red blood immediately spurted out of Jin Tian's body like a geyser, quickly dyeing his clothes red. A grunt of pain echoed from Jin Tian's mouth and his complexion immediately began to pale. He also swayed mid-air, almost falling out of the sky. Being hit by an arrow completely formed from world force definitely was not good. Just a single arrow actually caused a proper saint ruler to be heavily injured. A light of interest flashed across Jianchen's eyes. He knew that this was a good chance to kill Jin Tian. With a flash, he utilized spatial force to traverse the 100 meters to arrive in front of Jin Tian. Using his just-recovered right hand, he filled it with a tremendous surge of chaotic force and swung it at Jin Tian's head. Jin Tian was heavily injured, so all his powers had been greatly decreased. Jianchen's fist seemed to fuse with the space, firmly landing it on Jin Tian's head like a lightning bolt. Bang! With a muffled sound, Jin Tian's head had been struck, which caused his entire body to fly backwards far away. His skull was broken, and blood sprayed into the air like a lovely flower blooming mid-air. Jianchen knew that without wiping out the soul of a powerful saint ruler, It was impossible to kill one, even if their heads had caved in. He did not hesitate in the slightest, and with a flash, he chased Jin Tian, who was knocked flying like a lightning bolt through the use of spatial force. He threw another violent punch towards Jin Tian's head. Smith. This time, Jin Tian's entire head fell apart from Jian Chen's punch, with white brains mixed with blood flying in all directions. With that, Jin Tian had lost his ability to fly, falling out of the sky. Seeing how Jin Tian's head fall apart, Jian Chen finally let out a breath. It really was not simple to kill a saint ruler. If Jin Tian had not been heavily injured by the arrow from Huang Tianba, Jian Chen would not have been able to kill a powerful saint ruler so easily. Jian Chen's gaze landed on the ruler armament that was still tightly grasped by Jin Tian's corpse. He grabbed at it, and the sword-shaped ruler armament immediately left Jin Tian's hand, flying to him. Grasping the thin sword that was around the same size as the light wind sword, Jian Chen immediately felt like he had returned to the days of traveling only with a sword. With a sword in hand, there is only me. Jian Chen could not help but reveal a happy smile. He had finally found a suitable weapon, which had made him unable to suppress his excitement. Just at this moment, Jian Chen was slightly startled. He looked away from the ruler armament he had just obtained and stared downwards with interest. He only saw that from the broken skull, a white ball of feeble light suddenly drifted out. As soon as the ball of light had appeared, it began to flee into the distance like a bolt of lightning. Swish! Just when the ball of light had traveled several hundred meters, a silver arrow chased up to it from behind, directly piercing through it. Ah! A desolate cry resounded from the ball of light, and the light began to disperse shortly afterwards. After a while, it had completely disappeared. Brother Jian Chen, saint rulers have already refined their origin soul. Only by wiping out the origin soul can you truly kill a powerful saint ruler. That ball of light earlier was Jin Tian's origin soul. Huang Tianba said to Jian Chen with a smile as he hurried over from behind at his own pace. Chapter 686, The Dragon-Slaying Sword, Is That So? I thought saint rulers were the same as heaven saint masters. As long as their heads were smashed, their soul would also be extinguished. Jian Chen spoke with surprise. However, he also felt some doubt. Why did he not feel the origin soul Huang Tianba was talking about inside him? Perhaps it's because the sword spirits have combined with my presence, causing my soul to mutate, which is why I haven't refined an origin soul? Jian Chen questioned himself secretly. Huang Tianba chuckled. The origin souls of saint rulers are extremely hard to deal with. They're not as weak as heaven saint masters. If only the head is destroyed, it's not enough to wipe out the origin soul and would require additional work. This time, if we let Jin Tian's origin soul escape, he would return to how he was before without much time. Hearing that, a sliver of surprise flashed across Jian Chen's eyes. Are saint rulers able to rebuild their bodies with just the origin soul? That's not necessarily true. Although saint rulers are powerful, they don't have such a terrifying power. Huang Tianba shook his head and explained, it's because the origin souls of saint rulers have the ability to forcefully take over other people's bodies and survive in another form. Possess? I never thought that saint rulers would actually have such an ability. Hearing what Huang Tianba had said, Jian Chen gained a better understanding of the powers of saint rulers. Huang Tianba looked at the ruler armament in Jian Chen's hands. This is one of the two ruler armaments of the Hongfu clan, the dragon-slaying sword. The legends say that the original owner of the saint weapon had killed a peak class 7 black dragon, dyeing it with the blood of the black dragon. As a result, the sword was called the dragon-slaying sword by the first owner. Brother Jian Chen, do you feel that the sword is suitable? Jian Chen's gaze immediately landed on the ruler armament he had just obtained. Perhaps it was because of the loss of saint force. The light given off by the dragon-slaying sword was not as blinding as before. It was just that the sword was covered by a hazy layer of glittering light, so it seemed very out of the ordinary. Looking through the hazy layer, Jian Chen could vaguely see that the dragon-slaying sword was 2 fingers wide and there was an image of a seemingly living dragon on it. He did not know how it appeared on it. Grasping the dragon-slaying sword, Jian Chen could not help but reveal a deep sense of happiness. It immediately caused his bearing to change, from that of an ordinary-looking person to something similar to a drawn, treasured sword, showing off its abilities. In that moment, Jian Qun completely changed. It was as if he had turned into a deity sword, a peerless deity sword planted between the heavens and the earth. Huang Tianba's gaze turned solemn. He could feel the soaring sword qi from Jian Chen's aura. The sword qi was so abrupt that it had even caused him to feel fearful. Suddenly, Jian Chen's arm shook. The dragon-slaying sword in his hand immediately gave off a low resonance, sounding just like a black dragon roaring in anguish and lament. Afterwards, Jian Chen swung his hand at great speed, striking out at an unbelievable speed. The dragon-slaying sword turned into several afterimages, enveloping all the space in front of him. The afterimages were so clustered that it was hard to tell what was real or fake. What a fast strike! I've never seen such an exquisite swordplay. Brother Jian Chen really does hide his abilities. Who would have thought his swordplay is actually so great? Huang Tianba could not help but sigh. Only after using it to his heart's content did Jian Chen slowly stop. He looked at the sword with joy. At that moment, the excitement inside him had already reached the maximum. Not only did the ruler armament make up for his awkwardness of being unarmed, it actually could also withstand chaotic force. This finally allowed him to be able to use his excelling areas in an exceptional way. Although chaotic force, together with the chaotic body, gave him great fighting strength, he was still a swordsman, a powerful sword user. Only with a sword could he feel at ease. Just at this moment, a series of loud sounds echoed from over 5 kilometers away. They only saw that in the distance, several mountain peaks had collapsed simultaneously and a large amount of loose rock shot into the sky. Also, a powerful energy ripple turned into a violent whirlwind, which wreaked havoc everywhere it traveled. It had even caused Jian Chen and Huang Tianba's clothes to flutter about wildly, even though it originated from 5 kilometers away. Brother Jian Chen, you rest for a while. I'll go help newbies to kill Jin Feng. Huang Tianba called out to Jian Chen and then flew over with his longbow. In the distance, newbies and Jin Feng were still stuck in an intense battle. Although they were at a similar level in cultivation, newbies was an ancient magical beast. His battle ability could be compared to a powerful saint ruler of the 6th heavenly layer. Even with a ruler armament, Jin Feng definitely was not newbies' opponent, so it was an uphill battle for him. Also, he had already been poisoned by the venom of the silver-striped golden snake. It was currently spreading in his body, so at this very moment, Jin Feng's complexion had already turned to a bluish-black. Old man, even if you have a ruler armament in front of me, the great newbies, it's useless. Prepare to die. Newbies laughed aloud. He completely looked down on Jin Feng. The great newbies, I, Huang Tianba, have come to help you. Huang Tianba hurried to him from behind. Chapter 687. King of the Sword. Seeing Huang Tianba flying over quickly from the distance, newbies laughed aloud. I don't need your help. I can finish him off myself. Newbies suddenly radiated with a dazzling golden light. Countless strands of golden threads shot out from his body, flying towards Jin Tian abruptly. A portion of the golden threads tightly wounded around Jin Feng's ruler armament, while the other portion wrapped around Jin Feng. It enveloped his body like a cocoon, completely immobilizing him. Arg! Jin Feng yelled angrily upwards. The saint force within him surged out like water from a broken dam, attempting to forcefully break the golden threads. However, the golden threads were not everyday objects. Not only were they abnormally tough, they were extremely pliable. No matter how hard Jin Feng tried, he was unable to break through the binding. Old man, unless you have the power of the 4th heavenly layer, don't even think of escaping from the binding of my golden threads I have created. In front of me, the great newbies, you won't even have the ability to run away. Looking at Jin Feng, who was currently trying to break out with all of his might, newbies could not help but sneer at him. Afterwards, he used spatial force to arrive in front of Jin Feng in a flash. He used his right hand as a claw, directly passing through the golden threads and stabbing Jin Feng in the chest. He dug out the bloody heart from Jin Feng's body. Sniffing the heavy, bloody smell that permeated into the air, his eyes became vaguely bloodshot. The sharp smell of blood had already began to slowly excite the bloodthirsty nature of his bloodline. Newbies stared ruthlessly at Jin Feng, who was currently wrapped in golden thread and in great pain. Tightening his grip, he immediately crushed the heart in his hand. He smiled coldly. "Isn't it very painful? I've already forgotten how many people I, the great Newbies, have killed. As the first human saint ruler to die by my hands in the past few years, you should feel very honored. Now, allow me to end your life." A golden ball of light suddenly appeared out of Newbies' right hand. Most of the power from the golden thread had already gathered around his hand, but just when he wanted to crush Jin Feng's head and wipe out the origin soul, a soaring sword chi suddenly rushed over from far away. The swiftness and ferocity of the sword chi was rarely seen in the world. It was like a terrifying gas that filled the surrounding space with great killing intent. In the next moment, a loud and clear voice accompanied the soaring sword chi from the distance. "Newbies, let me finish him off." The bloodshot redness in Newbies' eyes slowly receded. Along with it, the bloodthirsty nature that had just been excited also slowly receded. As a Class 7 magical beast, although Newbies was unable to change the innate nature of magical beasts, he was still able to control his emotions at will. Newbies returned to normal very quickly. He turned around and looked at Jian Chen, who was currently approaching him. He could not help but feel shocked and mumbled, "Isn't it just a ruler armament? Why do I feel that Jian Chen has completely changed? That bearing actually even made me feel fearful. Since you want to finish off that old man, I, the great Newbies, will let you do it. I'll also get to see how powerful you are with the presence you are giving off." The golden threads binding Jin Feng returned to Newbies, and Jin Feng also regained his mobility. Afterwards, he did not hesitate in the slightest, immediately giving it his all to flee for his life. A sneer appeared on Huang Tianba's face. "In front of my Lunar Bao, there has not been a saint ruler that has successfully escaped." Huang Tianba grabbed the bow on his back, and a golden energy arrow formed from Saint Force quickly appeared. However, just when Huang Tianba was about to shoot the arrow, a sword chi rushed over from the distance. He only saw that several kilometers away, Jian Chen had swung his sword, and a powerful, meter-long sword chi radiating with a dark, beautiful glow approached Jin Feng with an unbelievable speed. The sword chi was made entirely of chaotic force and contained extremely terrifying power. Wherever the sword chi had passed over, it would cause the space to crack. The sword chi was so quick that it seemed to be able to teleport, completely exceeding Jin Feng's escape speed. Just after fleeing for a few kilometers, Jin Feng was caught up by the sword chi. Afterwards, it passed through him like a hot knife through butter. "Arg!" Jin Feng immediately gave off a shrill cry. Chaotic force was extremely powerful. When the sword chi formed from chaotic force had passed through his body, a small amount of the force was deposited into his body. At this moment, the tiny amount of chaotic force was wreaking violent havoc in his body, quickly obliterating his inner organs. His powerful saint force was actually unable to do anything about the tiny amount of chaotic force. No matter how he tried, he was unable to extinguish the chaotic force. Just what is this power? Jin Tian's heart was filled with dread. The residue power in his body was the first time he had ever seen such a powerful energy. Before, he had not ever seen or heard such a power, because the strength of it had exceeded his understanding to the various forces of Tianyuan continent. What a great energy! That strike actually is completely equal to one from a fifth heavenly layer saint ruler. Brother Genshin, just how did he become so strong? Even if he had obtained a ruler armament, his strength definitely could not have increased so greatly. Huang Tianba sighed in surprise secretly. The power of Jian Chen's strike had shocked him, because he knew very well that Jian Chen had just become a saint ruler. However, when Huang Tianba thought about it again, he remembered how Jian Chen was outstanding in every aspect and could not be judged on a normal standard. As a result, he was relieved of the previous thought. He only stared at Jian Chen with a complicated expression, and used a voice only he could hear to mumble, "Looks like the publicly recognized #1 expert of Tianyun continent will appear again soon." Brother Jian Chen has such unbelievable accomplishments even though he is still in his 20s. Other than the city lord of Mercenary City, Emotianyun, perhaps there is no one else in the Tianyun continent that can be compared to him. Newbies was also completely astounded. He stared at Jian Chen flabbergasted and was extremely uncalm in his heart. He had naturally felt the strike Jian Chen had struck out. Even though he possessed the body of an ancient beast, he definitely could not withstand the blow. As a magical beast, he possessed a heaven-sent advantage and was stronger than humans in various aspects. However, newbies could clearly feel that the sword chi struck out by Jian Chen actually possessed an extremely terrifying power. Not only was the power extremely overbearing, it was filled with destruction. With his innate and terrifying instincts as a magical beast, newbies had even felt that there was nothing in the world that could stop the destruction of the terrifying power. That terrifying power isn't recorded in my inherited memories. Does this mean that it's never appeared on the Tianyun continent before? Perhaps it's just because no silver-striped golden snake has come across it before. I really wonder whether Jian Chen is a reincarnation of Mo Tianyun now. Other than Mo Tianyun, who else on the Tianyun continent has such terrifying talent and battle capability? Also, the force used by Mo Tianyun was just as terrifying. Newbies glanced at Jian Chen with an extremely complicated expression. At this moment, Jian Chen's status in his heart had already undergone some minor changes. With the fusion of man with sword, Jian Chen had become a sword. His entire body had suddenly turned into something similar to a sharp sword and charged at Jin Feng. Although his speed was not as fast as traveling with the use of spatial force, it was not much slower. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen had arrived in front of Jin Feng. He poured the chaotic force from his body into the ruler armament and the glittering glow of the ruler armament was immediately suppressed, giving off a dark, beautiful glow. Jian Chen quickly swung his hand. The dragon-slaying sword immediately turned into densely packed sword which enveloped Jin Feng. With every blow Jian Chen struck out, there were profound principles behind them. The swordplay was extremely exquisite, as if it was heaven-made. It was so perfect and so flawless. Arg! Being enveloped by the swords, Jin Feng gave out a shrill cry. Fresh blood constantly splashed everywhere and in a short 2 breaths, Jin Feng had already turned into a blood-washed man. Horrifying wounds covered on his body and he had no inch untouched. In such a short moment, Jian Chen had caused over 1,000 wounds on Jin Feng's body. Newbies and Huang Tianba who were spectating from afar gasped together. They looked at Jian Chen in astonishment. At this very moment, a thought appeared in their heads simultaneously. What a fast sword! Who would have thought Brother Jian Chen is actually so terrifying with a sword? Before, I definitely underestimated him. Perhaps this is Brother Jian Chen's true strength. Such a fast speed in striking is just too scary. If it's speed, who can be his opponent? Huang Tianba said in his heart. At this moment, the dragon-slaying sword flashed, turning into a blur which slid across Jin Feng's throat. Jin Feng's head and body immediately separated, with his head thrown high up into the air. Jian Chen's expression was cold and shot a swift but forceful glance at Jin Feng's head. Afterwards, he immediately chased after it. The dragon-slaying sword in his hands gave out a deep hum. It was the sound created from the great drag between the high-speed sword and the air. Afterwards, he directly thrust it out in the simple fashion, piercing Jin Feng's head in between the brows and traveling to the other side of the skull. Jian Chen did not wait for Jin Feng's origin soul to escape and the chaotic force contained within the dragon-slaying sword immediately erupted, blowing up Jin Feng's head and directly wiping out the origin soul hidden inside altogether. Chapter 688. Arrival of a Gilligan clan king. Jin Feng's body fell out of the air powerlessly, landing firmly on a mountain peak below. A saint ruler had just fallen like that. Jian Chen put his sword away and remained where he was. The shocking aura of his slowly receded and in the blink of an eye, he went from a divine sword showing off its abilities to as ordinary as he was before. The special traits of saint rulers appeared on him again. Although he just seemed to stand there casually, his body actually seemed to completely merge with the space around him, as if he was one with the world. The chaotic force injected in the dragon-slaying sword was completely withdrawn by Jianchen, so the dark, beautiful glow on the sword had already disappeared. Now, the hazy, glittering light originally suppressed by the chaotic force reappeared, covering up the dragon-slaying sword's appearance. Jianchen floated in the sky, looking at Jin Feng's corpse with a complicated expression. Today, the two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan had died, but only Jin Feng could really be considered as being killed Jianchen's hands. This was because Jin Feng's origin soul was wiped out by he himself, unlike how Jin Tian's origin soul was wiped out by Huang Tianba. After personally killing a saint ruler, Jianchen was also slightly moved. This was because powerful people like this were not common on the Tianyun continent. Not only were they small in numbers, every one of them held a great position, an existence that truly stood on the apex of the Tianyun continent. Brother Jianchen's performance really has broadened my horizons. Who would have thought Brother Jianchen's attainments in the sword are actually so great, actually so terrifying when using the sword? That speed in striking is probably unparalleled on the Tianyun continent. Huang Tianba appeared in front of Jianchen at a certain time and praised with a face full of shock. What he had said completely originated from his heart, not honeyed, made-up words to curry favor from Jianchen. Newbies also flew over from afar. He gazed at Jianchen with an extremely complicated gaze. Before, that sword you struck out was not any weaker than a saint ruler of the fifth heavenly layer. Who would have thought that after becoming a saint ruler, your strength would have such a great change from just a ruler armament? Hearing the two of them talk, Jianchen was not physically moved at all and remained calm. He gazed at the dragon-slaying sword in front of him in a trance. All of this comes from the sword. If I did not have this sword, I definitely would not be able to kill a saint ruler so easily, even if he or she was already heavily injured. As long as the sword in my hands, I can perform better than normal. Looks like this ruler armament just happens to be suitable with Brother Jianchen. Only when such a valuable ruler armament is a great swordsman's hands, like Brother Jianchen, will not be insulting to it. Before, when this ruler armament was in Jin Feng's hands, the radiance it deserved was completely covered up. Huang Tianba could not help but praise some more. Afterwards, he looked down and with a casual flick of his hand, a 3-meter-long long spear flew up from below. It had a thickness of a wrist and gave off a hazy glow. Huang Tianba examined the long spear for a while before passing it to Jianchen. He smiled. Brother Jianchen, this ruler armament's original name is the all-devastating divine spear. It's a very bold name. It's one of the treasures of the Hongfu clan along with the dragon-slaying sword. They're passed down with each generation. Now that Jin Feng and Jin Tian, this all-devastating spear belongs to Brother Jianchen. Jianchen tore his eyes from the dragon-slaying sword to observe the all-devastating divine spear. The name of it was very bold, but there was nothing special about the appearance of the spear. It was no different from an ordinary spear, except for the fact that it had the additional presence of a ruler armament. Senior Huang, this sword is enough for me. You should keep the ruler armament. With 2 ruler armaments, the strength of your Huang family should increase quite a lot. Jianchen declined. Huang Tianba chuckled. My Huang family is not an ancient clan, unable to possess multiple ruler armaments. The more ruler armaments there are, the worse it is for our Huang family. They're like hot potatoes, as with every one of them, more power is needed to protect them. Although my Huang family is now without any grievances, just 1 ruler armament is enough. Also, there's no one in my Huang family who uses the spear, so even if I take it, the all-devastating divine spear is useless to my Huang family. It's better if Brother Jianchen keeps it. Jianchen hesitated for a while, but still extended his hand to take the all-devastating divine spear in the end. He said, since it's like that, I'll temporarily hold onto the spear. Haha, Brother Jianchen does not need to be polite. Without your help, I definitely would not have been able to kill Jin Feng and Jin Tian so easily. This is something Brother Jianchen deserves. Huang Tianba paused and clasped his hands at Jianchen. Brother Jianchen, the 2 saint rulers of the Hongfu clan are dead, but there are still remaining forces deeply hidden. I must hurry back to Huang family to make arrangements. to properly uproot them to prevent future problems. I'll be leaving first. After bidding farewell to Jianchen, Huang Tianba immediately hurried towards the Huang family. It left Jianchen and newbies floating lonesomely midair. Jianchen glanced at the spear in his hand and then passed it to newbies. He smiled. Newbies, your performance today is good. I have no use for this spear, so you should just take it. Seeing Jianchen actually give a ruler armament which was treasured by saint rulers in such a magnanimous fashion, newbies was deeply moved. He smiled. I'm not used to using this thing. Also, I am a silver-striped golden snake, a beast of antiquity. My strength in battle itself is already extremely powerful, so I don't need to use anything else. You should keep that thing. Don't forget that there's a huge group of people under you. When the time is right, giving it to them is pretty good too. It'll strengthen your flame mercenaries. Looks like I can't even give this ruler armament away. Jianchen took back the all-devastating divine spear with a bitter smile and then threw it into his space ring. Newbies, let's go back. It's the great newbies. Jianchen collected Jin Feng and Jin Tian's space rings before leaving, returning to where the flame mercenaries were. In that period of time, the flame mercenaries became more and more well-known. They had 3 powerful saint rulers, which made them a peak-level force without a doubt. They became the strongest known existence in a radius of 100,000 kilometers, with only the hermit clans and families hidden in the wilderness able to resist against them. However, within the hermit clans and families, the captain of the flame mercenaries, Jianchen, had also become a well-known figure. Last time, when several hermit clans and 2 ancient clans fought over the tungsten alloy mine, Jianchen had invited the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. The news of the Grand Elder heavily injuring a Saint King of the Aoyun clan with just a glance had already spread. It caused a hubbub in the hermit forces, which made the hermit clans and schools unwilling to provoke the flame mercenaries. As a result, it was extremely peaceful for the flame mercenaries in that period of time. Also, the mining of the tungsten alloy began on a large scale without concealing anything. Not only did they pay a high price for a large amount of locals to come and mine, they had even recruited people from the surrounding kingdoms on a large scale, allowing the flame mercenaries to mine a large amount of tungsten alloy every day. 2 days later, in the conference hall of the flame mercenaries, the higher-ranking members and a few important people gathered together. As for Jianchen, he currently sat at the end with a small, white tiger sleeping comfortably in his hands. He carried the bearing of a leader. Brother, this is a draft drawn up by the higher-ranking members, Sister Yu and me. Right now, we have an inexhaustible supply of tungsten alloy, so we plan to use the allow to build a city wall completely composed of tungsten alloy. I wonder if Brother has any other ideas. Brother, your sister's idea is good. Using tungsten alloy to build a city wall is something that has never happened on the Tianyun continent. If we really succeed in building the city wall, I swear that it'll definitely be the sturdiest, strongest and most expensive city wall on the Tianyun continent. Even the 7 capitals will pale in comparison to it. Ming Dong said excitedly. Jianchen glanced over the images drawn on the paper and nodded with a smile. Liana, let's do it like you planned. You think through things very thoroughly and do things in a way that doesn't cause me worry. If it's possible, let's just go with your idea, using tungsten alloy to build the sturdiest city on Tianyun continent. Yes, brother. Bai Lian was excited. It was her who had thought of this idea, so as soon as she thought about the fact that the sturdiest city on Tianyun continent would be designed by her, she was filled with a great amount of pride. Bang! Suddenly, there was a loud sound. The closely shut doors of the conference hall were kicked open forcefully by someone. The sturdy doors made from ironwood directly transformed into flying pieces of wood, surprising everyone who was currently in the hall. Sitting in the hall, Jianchen, newbies and Jetta Tai immediately became serious. They stared outside the hall out of surprise, because with their strength, they did not feel who was responsible for what had happened at all. This caused the 3 of them to be shrouded in disbelief. Under the gaze of the 3, a large, middle-aged man in simple clothing walked in from outside. The man was over 2.5 meters in height with a tough and stocky body. He seemed to be tall and sturdy, with a fierce and tough-looking face. Chapter 689. Calamity. Everyone in the conference hall was surprised by the sudden scene. They all stared at the middle-aged man, completely at a loss. After all, this was the center of the Flame mercenaries. The security was so strict that there was basically 3 layers of guards both inside and outside. Even a fly would not have been able to fly in. As for just how the man got in and smashed the door of the conference hall, it completely mystified everyone. After all, with the Flame mercenaries' current name and strength, no one in a radius of several hundred kilometers dared to come provoke them. Jian Qin, newbies, and Jeditai's gazes all gathered on the man who had suddenly broke in. However, when newbies saw the appearance of the man properly, his expression changed greatly. His face was filled with disbelief and could not help but call out, "It's actually you, W. Why have you come?" Jian Qin glanced at newbies who was beside him and also felt a wave of doubt. Newbies' behavior clearly indicated he knew who this man was. Jian Qin just did not understand what had made newbies lose his composure so much. The man stared at Jian Qin with his forceful gaze and sneered, "Who would have thought you little snake would choose to serve a human, willing to become a lackey of a human? That's really surprising. Doesn't an ancient silver-striped gold snake view its dignity with more importance than its life? You little snake really are some exception." Hearing the man's challenging words and tone, newbies immediately became unhappy. Silver-striped golden snakes indeed would put their dignity above everything else, and what the man said had already crossed newbies' bottom line. Without even considering what status the man held, he sneered, "What I, the great newbies, does is none of your concern. Not just you, even the great king has no right to it." The man continued to sneer, "You only dare to say that in front of me. If the great king was here, would you really dare to say it?" Newbies was overcome by mixed emotions. He grinded his teeth as he stared at the man, but he did not say anything more, because the man was right. Even though Newbies was so prideful in front of the great king, he could only hold back his proud nature. The man did not continue to bicker with Newbies. His gaze landed on the small white tiger that was sleeping in Jian Qin's hands, displaying complicated and happy emotions. "You must be Jian Qin. Relax, I won't be troubling you. Just hand the small tiger to me and nothing will happen," the man said with an extremely cold tone as he stared at Jian Qin expressionlessly. Hearing that the man actually wanted the small white tiger in his hands, Jian Qin's heart immediately froze. He stared at the man with a gaze of shock and doubt and asked with a soft voice, "Who are you?" The man smiled coldly. He glanced at the gold-clothed newbies. "He knows who I am." Jian Qin immediately looked at newbies. Actually, he already vaguely knew the identity of the man. He just needed verification. Jian Qin, he's one of the 2 great kings of the Gilligan clan, the Tiger King Anderkin. With an ugly expression, Newbies replied in a low voice. "What? He's a king from the Gilligan clan. Is it that Gilligan clan from the depths of the Cross Mountains?" Jeditai could not help but exclaim from surprise. As a peak-level expert who had become a saint ruler many years ago, he was familiar with the Gilligan clan. It was an extremely powerful clan. Not only were the 2 kings powerful saint kings, they had a total of a dozen or so saint rulers of various species. Even the ancient clans did not dare to provoke the Gilligan clan. Also, the depths of the Cross Mountains was a forbidden regions to all humans, so even human saint rulers did not dare to intrude the region. Jian Qin's expression immediately became extremely ugly. Although he already knew that a king from the Gilligan clan would come looking him sooner or later, he did not think it would actually be so soon. After all, it was only so long since he had met the little white tiger and the Tianyun continent was so big. To be able to find him in the sea of people was as hard as fishing a needle from an ocean. Noticing Jian Qin's change in expressions, the man smiled coldly. "Jian Qin, you don't need to be scared. As long as you give me that cub, I'll leave immediately. I won't cause you any trouble." Jian Qin stared at the man and said softly, "You've actually left the depths of the Cross Mountains and entered the world of us humans. Have you forgotten the agreements set by our human experts and your Cross Mountains before? The consequences to breaking the agreement are not light." This time, it was the man's turn to experience a change in expression. He stared at Jian Chen coldly. Now that I'm here, I only need the twitch of a finger to kill you all. Jian Chen, you're a smart person. You should make the correct decision. I believe you won't do something stupid. Now obediently the tiger to me. Don't make me do it. Tiger King, you've already stepped onto the Tianyun continent. If you dare to start a massacre on the Tianyun continent, the human experts definitely will not let you go. Even if you return to the Gilligan clan, you won't be able to escape from the human experts. Newbies said softly. Also, something I forgot to tell you, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City is supporting Jian Chen from behind. What? He knows the Grand Elder of Mercenary City? The man was immediately surprised. There was restraining fear in the depths of his eyes. The Grand Elder of Mercenary City is my uncle. Sir, I don't care who you are. If you dare to harm my brother, I'll immediately invite my uncle. My uncle may be still in Mercenary City, but if he wants to come over, he only needs the blink of an eye. Ming Dong opened his mouth. Although he was still extremely unsure about the entire situation, he already knew from Newbies' introduction that the man in front of him was a king from a powerful clan capable of terrifying Newbies and Jeditai. The man stood there with mixed emotions. Afterwards, all the worry in his gaze was replaced by mockery. Staring them, he smiled coldly. You should save it. You really think I'm as easy to trick as a 3-year-old kid? Jian Chen, I'll say it one last time. Immediately give me the tiger, otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. I don't care who you are, but if you want me to give you the winged tiger god, it won't happen. Jian Chen replied without any additional thought. Afterwards, he sandwiched the winged tiger god in his left armpit and drew the dragon-slaying sword from his space ring with his right hand. With the sword in hand, Jian Chen's entire presence underwent a complete change. He immediately became a treasured sword displaying its abilities. The aura from his body seemed to directly rush into the heavens, and similar to a divine sword, he gave off an overwhelming presence. Looks like I have to do it. The man revealed a cruel smile and advanced with each step. Swish. Suddenly, Jian Chen left the ground, directly punching a hole in the roof of the conference hall. Only when he was outside could he use his full strength without any worry, such as injuring other people from the ripples of battle. Jian Chen, hurry up and call for the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Only he can deal with this. Just when Jian Chen rushed through the roof, he heard Newbies' voice. Hearing that, Jian Chen felt pained. In the fight last time over the tungsten alloy mine when Tianjian suddenly appeared, it was because he had once given a piece of jade to Huang Tianba to contact him. However, the jade had been shattered and there was not another one. Even if he wanted to get Tianjian to help him, he did not have the ability. You actually dare to fight against me. What arrogance and conceitedness. Perhaps you actually think that your puny strength is enough to fight against me? The king from the Gilligan clan sneered as he watched Jian Chen soar into the sky. Afterwards, he followed him without hurrying. With his strength, he was not worried about Jian Chen running away at all. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen and the king from the Gilligan clan disappeared from the conference hall, leaving behind a group of people wide-eyed and lost as to what they should do. Oh my God, 2 seniors, what are you staring there for? Hurry up and go help my brother. Fight him together. When Bai Lian finally returned to her senses, she immediately looked at Newbies and Jeditai with a pleading gaze. Currently in the hall, they were the 2 who possessed the strongest strength. Alas! Jeditai gave a long sigh. He was overwhelmed with helplessness. Newbies shrugged and said innocently, Little sister, it's not that we're not helping Jian Chen, it's that this matter is already beyond our capabilities. You probably don't know the strength of the king from the Gilligan clan. It's not something we can deal with at all. Even if we go, we'll just be looking to die. Just what is going on? An old voice originated from afar. As soon as the voice disappeared, an elderly man in long, blue robes had already appeared in the conference hall. He was the patriarch of the Bai clan, Bai Hai, who had been alerted by Jian Chen's change in presence. Seeing the patriarch, Bai Lian immediately grabbed the patriarch's hand like grabbing a life-saving branch. She said hurriedly, Fantastic, fantastic, Grandfather, you've finally come. Brother is fighting a powerful opponent. Grandpa, you need to quickly go help him. Hearing that, Bai Hai became serious. He immediately turned to Newbies and Jeddah. Just what is going on? Newbies sighed lightly. The person is a king from the Gilligan clan. He's a tiger that's already reached class 8. Even if we work together, we are not his opponent, so if we go, we're going for nothing. We can only call for the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. What? That person's a magical beast that has already reached the strength of a Saint King. Oh no, it'll be troublesome now. All the items Uncle Tian has left behind to contact him have been used up. I can't contact Uncle Tian. Ming Dong's expression changed greatly. He was extremely worried. Chapter 690. The Juncture of Danger. What? You can't contact the Grand Elder? Hearing what Ming Dong had said, Newbies' expression changed greatly. Ming Dong was very anxious. The reason why Uncle Tian could arrive on time last time was because he gave a piece of jade that could contact him to Huang Tianba. Now that the jade has been used up, the objects Uncle Tian originally left for me to contact him have also been used up, so I can't contact him anymore. It'll be troublesome this time. The opponent is a powerful Saint King, so how can Jian Chen be his opponent? Bai Hai inferred some of the details from the conversation between the two and also became extremely anxious. He said, just how did my great-grandson provoke an expert like that? And he's even a king from the Gilligan clan. No, he is the only hope for my Bai clan. I definitely can't let him die so young like this. No matter how strong the enemy is, I must save him even if I lose my old life. Saying that, Bai Hai was prepared to fly out through the hole in the roof created by Jian Chen. However, just when he was about to move, he was stopped by Newbies. You old senile fool, you don't even know how strong a Saint King is. With your strength as a Saint Ruler of the 5th heavenly layer, you can't even change anything. If a Saint King wants to kill you, it's only a matter of the twitch of a finger. Even if you go, you'll just die for nothing. Newbies scolded. I don't know if my grandfather can save Jian Chen, but I'll immediately call for grandfather. Little Fatty understood that Jian Chen was in danger. After mentioning this, he immediately bit a finger on his left hand, dripping the blood onto the space ring on his right hand. Newbies became rather agitated. Hearing what Little Fatty had said, he immediately began snapped. Who do you think your grandfather is? Even if he comes, he's useless. He's gotta be the Grand Elder of Mercenary City or some peerless expert from some ancient clan. The opponent's a king from the Gilligan clan, okay? A bloody class 8 tiger. There's so few people that can fight against him, it's countable. You're not allowed to speak ill of my grandfather. My grandfather's really powerful. Seeing how Newbies belittled his grandfather, it made Little Fatty extremely unhappy. He yelled at Newbies angrily. You little kiddo, the great Newbies, am not bored enough to bicker with you. Right now, everyone should just quickly think of ideas, best to contact the Grand Elder. Otherwise, if Jian Chen doesn't hand over the winged tiger god, perhaps he really will be in danger. Jian Chen sandwiched the cub tightly in his armpit. He wielded the dragon-slaying sword tightly in his right hand, and the soaring presence he gave off radiated into the distance. He seemed to completely fuse with the surrounding space, becoming one with it. He flew into the distance silently. His speed was very fast, so fast that only a blurry afterimage could be seen. Behind him, the member of the Gilligan clan maintained a sneer. He followed behind him unhurriedly. With his strength as a Saint King, he did not worry about Jian Chen escaping, as he was only a Saint Ruler of the 1st heavenly layer escaping. After a mere few breaths, Jian Chen had already appeared over several dozen kilometers away, far away from the base of the flame mercenaries. The prosperous and lively city below him had also disappeared, replaced by a desolate grassland. Jian Chen, it's peaceful enough here. There's no need to worry about slaughtering innocent people and suffering celestial decay. Let's handle our business here. At this moment, Jian Chen suddenly heard the voice of the Gilligan clan member. When he had finished speaking, Jian Chen saw that the Gilligan clan member who was supposed to be behind him had suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his path. Jian Chen's reaction was very fast. coming to a screeching stop. He shot a swift but forceful glance at the middle-aged man, and his expression was extremely solemn. The chaotic Naiden in his dantian began to spit out large amounts of chaotic force soon after. The vast chaotic force quickly surged about in Jian Chen's body, reaching every corner in his body and increasing the defense of the chaotic body to the limit. Another strand of chaotic force directly surged into his right arm before being poured into the dragon-slaying sword. The blurry, glittering glow of the dragon-slaying sword was suppressed and replaced by a dark, beautiful glow. At the same time, a presence of destruction began to radiate from the dragon-slaying sword, causing the surrounding space to greatly warp. At that moment, Jian Chen had already adjusted his body to the peak condition, completely ready to use all of his strength. He did not dare to hold back at all, as he knew that this battle perhaps would be his toughest and most hopeless battle in his life. The Gilligan clan member ridiculed as he stared at Jian Chen. Interesting. Who would have thought that a first heavenly layer saint ruler like you would be giving off a presence comparable to a fifth heavenly layer saint ruler? You really are the cream of the crop for the humans. No wonder Rum Guinness would give her own cub to you to look after. However, do you think that you can resist against me with just that little power? Such arrogance. The magical beast's tone was filled with disdain. Jian Chen said nothing. He stared fixedly at the member of the Gilligan clan, before suddenly giving out a great roar. Even more chaotic force flowed from his body into the dragon-slaying sword. The dark glow of the dragon-slaying sword immediately began to increase, and the presence of destruction suddenly increased multiple times on end. Afterwards, he swung out. A sword chi completely composed of chaotic force shot out from the dragon-slaying sword, cutting through space. It shot towards the magical beast like nothing short of a thunderbolt. Jian Chen had put everything into the strike. It was his greatest attack with the strength he currently possessed. The member of the Gilligan clan revealed a sneer. He clenched his hands softly, and the space in front immediately began to solidify. The terrifying sword chi from Jian Chen was forcefully frozen in the space, unable to move at all. Shortly afterwards, the frozen space directly shattered, and with it, the sword chi completely dispersed. Jian Chen had poured all his strength into the strike, yet it was actually unable to even approach the magical beast from the Gilligan clan. He only needed to move slightly to completely nullify Jian Chen's attack without using much strength at all. Seeing what had happened, Jian Chen immediately became overwhelmed by despair. Shortly afterwards, he did not hesitate and immediately turned around to escape. He became one with the surrounding space, using spatial force to escape into the distance, akin to a lightning bolt. You want to escape in my presence? You have no right. The Gilligan clan member stared at Jian Chen in disdain before swinging his hand to cut open the space in front of him, creating a space gate. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Jian Chen, blocking his way once again. Jian Chen, I've already given you an opportunity. It was you who failed to appreciate my kindness. Since it's like that, don't blame me for being impolite. The Gilligan clan member spoke expressionlessly, before directly throwing a punch at Jian Chen, who was several hundred meters away. The simple-looking punch actually carried much of the mysteries of the world. As he struck out the blow, time seemed to suffer a short pause. A shapeless energy directly pierced through space, striking Jian Chen like a lightning bolt. It landed square on his chest. Jian Chen was unable to defend against it at all and violently vomited a mouthful of blood. It transformed into a mist in the air. The chaotic body he relied most upon was already shattered, with a cavity appearing on his chest. Through the hole, the scenery behind Jian Chen could actually be seen. The powerful force directly caused Jian Chen to smash into the ground, creating a great crater below. He sank deeply into the ground. The Gilligan clan member slowly floated down. He observed Jian Chen, who was embedded deeply in the crater, with a cold gaze and mumbled, "This kid is not normal. Not only does the power he controls is powerful and weird, even his body is abnormal. Since a grievance has already been formed between us today, I can't leave you alive. Otherwise, when you become strong, you'll look for me for revenge. Whatever, since I've already stepped into the Tianyuan continent, I might as well just eliminate you and prevent some future trouble. Having you mature would be bad. The Gilligan clan member gently waved his hand, and the still sleeping tiger cub immediately floated out from the crater. It immediately flew towards the magical beast. At the same time, a great power had already coalesced in his right hand, ready to end what he started and properly kill off Jianchen. However, just when the tiger cub began approach the Gilligan clan member, a shadow appeared in the originally brightly lit sky. Chapter 691. Houston. The blazing sun in the sky disappeared at that moment, and the originally bright sky was suddenly shrouded by darkness. The darkness was stifling, as if an apocalypse had occurred. Also, the moving air from before froze at that moment. It seemed as if time had been frozen. The tiger cub that was originally floating towards the magical beast from the Gilligan clan immediately stopped, before being guided to the nearby grass by an invisible force. The expression of the magical beast became extremely ugly. There was unconcealed shock in his gaze, because his body was currently tightly bound by an unimaginably great power. No matter how he tried, he was unable to move or break free of it. Bastard, what are the chances for me to meet experts of the human world in such a desolate place? The member of the Gilligan clan was enraged. The strength of the hidden person who moved against him caused him to be terrified. He had not even appeared, yet he already completely immobilized him. Just what kind of strength did he possess? Member of the Gilligan clan, you have broken our original agreement by entering the world of humans. According to the agreement, I have the right to kill you. An old, mighty voice originated from the sky. The cold tone was filled with awe, and shortly afterwards, 100-meter-long spatial crack suddenly appeared in the sky. An extremely ordinary-looking hoe, still caked in mud, transformed into a black ray, striking the magical beast from the Gilligan clan like a lightning bolt. The Gilligan clan member was trapped, unable to move at all. As a result, he could only watch helplessly as the hoe struck him in the chest. Bang! With a muffled sound, a head-sized hole appeared in the chest of the Gilligan clan member. His body of a Class 8 magical beast seemed to become tofu in front of the hoe, easily having a hole punched through it by the hoe that seemed to be completely made of ordinary metal. The Gilligan clan member spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was still trapped by the invisible force, unable to move at all. Just who are you? Are you the Grand Elder of Mercenary City or from the 10 Great Guardian clans? The Gilligan clan member roared at the sky as he stared in shock. With his current strength, he was actually completely suppressed by the opponent. Humans who possessed such strength could be counted with fingers. Other than the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, only the 10 Guardian clans possessed such peerless experts. The magical beast did not receive a reply. The hoe radiated with a dark light. Powerful dark attributed Saint Force actually melded together with World Force miraculously, and it was actually much more powerful than any other force. Shortly afterwards, the hoe was swung towards the magical beast's head, as if it was plowing the ground. Roar! A great tiger roar originated from the Gilligan clan member's mouth, before he was shrouded by golden light. In that moment, he became a huge, golden tiger 12 meters long, with his fur radiating with dazzling gold light. It was extremely blinding, and shortly afterwards, the body of the giant tiger shook, actually breaking free from the invisible restraints. He regained his mobility, before immediately dodging to the side. The hoe dug into the giant tiger's tail, causing the several-meter-thick tail to be chopped into 2 parts. It caused the member of the Gilligan clan to cry out in pain. After the strike, the hoe did not pause. It continued to radiate with dark light, swinging towards the head of the giant tiger. At the same time, the surrounding space quickly froze as if it was a block of ice, restraining the giant tiger again. You want to kill me? It's not that easy. The golden tiger spoke in human language, before giving out a long roar at the sky. His body was enveloped by a bright, blood-red light, and with a red flash, the giant tiger disappeared. He had used a secret technique to escape. That's a high-level secret technique for escape from the Beast Clan. Who would have thought he would use such a self-cannibalizing secret technique to escape? Even if you escape this time, your strength will fall from the second heavenly layer to the first heavenly layer as a Saint King. The old voice resounded gently in the sky. Afterwards, the host stopped midair before transforming into a black blur, disappearing into the huge crack in the sky. At the same time, the darkness quickly receded, allowing the world to recover its original brightness. Jianchen floated slowly out of the crater and landed gently on the ground. However, at this moment, he was unconscious, unaware of what was happening around him. What a weird power and strong body, to be actually rejuvenating from such a heavy injury. Looks like he'll fully recover in no time. The old voice resounded in the empty space again. The origins of it were unknown, without any trace at all. Shortly afterwards, the old voice resounded again. Tianjian, you've been hiding for so long. Isn't it about time for you to come out? As soon as he finished speaking, a space gate formed swiftly. Tianjian floated out of the space gate in white clothes. He stared calmly at the opposite crack in space and said, Houston, we haven't met in over 1,000 years. Who would have thought that we would meet again under such circumstances? You really surprised me with protecting Jianchen secretly. The space crack quickly formed into a space gate and an old man in extremely simple clothes walked out. He was barefooted and his feet were covered in mud. The hoe which he had used to injure the Gilligan clan was currently lugged casually over his shoulder. He seemed just like an old farmer. Jianchen is friends with my grandson, as well as someone I regard as important, so I naturally will protect him and not let him die. Tianjian, why do you protect Jianchen? With your strength, you should know the secret of the winged tiger god. Perhaps your mercenary city wants to steal the winged tiger god when it's still young and raise it yourself? Once the winged tiger god is fully grown, it's extremely powerful. Houston said calmly. Back then, the city lord left behind a law in the Grand Elder's laws, that mercenary city must never treat the winged tiger gods as an enemy, and when a winged tiger god did appear, we have to help it mature with all of our ability. I'm only carrying out the city lord's orders. Speaking up to there, Tianjian paused. He looked at the unconscious Jianchen on the ground and continued. Also, Jianchen's talent is unprecedented on the Tianyuan continent. He will definitely surpass us in the future, so I naturally have to protect him. When he truly steps into the peak, it will be a fortune for us humans. Perhaps he will become an important figure in resisting against the beast god continent in the future. Tianjian paused, before continuing. Houston, looks like you've discovered the identity of the winged tiger god before me. A few days ago, your blood sword sect has appeared again and again along the sea. They should be monitoring the beast god continent. Houston nodded slightly. Correct. I believe the peace of our Tianyuan continent will be shattered in the not-so-distant future. Chapter 692. Conversation. Houston nodded slightly. Correct. I believe the peace of our Tianyuan continent will be shattered in the not-so-distant future. Looks like you've also guessed that the matter of the Gilligan clan against the winged tiger god is much more complicated. That's true. Peace will be broken soon and the silent guardian clans will all appear once again. Houston, I know you've already retired from the Tianyuan continent for 1,000 years, but you are still a human expert who stands on the peak. When the beast god continent invades, I hope that your blood sword sect will be able to support our Tianyuan continent to make a contribution to the human race. Tianjian said solemnly to Houston. Houston nodded calmly. You don't have to worry. Although I, Houston, have once sworn that I would never interfere with the matters of the Tianyuan continent again 1,000 years ago, this regards the safety of the human race. I definitely will not stand down. That'll be good. With your blood sword sect helping, our power in resisting the beast god continent will increase quite a lot. Although we know that the beast god continent is coming for the winged tiger god, we definitely can't let them obtain it. I think that the king of the beast god continent wants to seize the growing winged tiger god and forcefully possess its body. Looks like you've thought into this more than me. Originally, I thought that king of beast god continent wanted to kill the young winged tiger god to maintain his position in power. Looks like it's much more complicated than I imagined. Houston sighed. It indeed is much more complicated than you have imagined. Tianjian looked deeply into Houston. He hesitated slightly before continuing. Houston, perhaps you don't know, but the previous winged tiger god had once left a shrine on the beast god continent in the ancient times, and he left his legacy in the shrine. However, other than winged tiger gods, no other magical beast is able to enter it, unless their strength surpasses the one that created it, in which they can just forcefully break through the shrine's barrier. As for the king of beast god continent, once it possessed the body of the winged tier god, he can successfully inherit the legacy, very possibly reaching the strength that the ancient winged tiger god had reached. At that time, we humans will no longer possess the power to resist at all. Houston's expression became extremely serious. Floating midair, he said nothing, and only after a long time did he give a deep sigh at the sky. Looks like we definitely have to use all our strength to protect this winged tiger god. We mustn't let the beast god continent obtain it. Now that we humans no longer have an expert like Mo Tianyun, once the king of beast god continent possesses the body of the winged tiger god, even the path lord of carnal desires wouldn't be his opponent. Hearing the name, Tianjian furrowed his brows. Pausing for a moment, he said, "Don't rely on the path lord of carnal desires. That renegade was expelled from the pure heart pavilion and walks a path of desire, indulging in the 7 emotions and 6 desires. If he knows about the winged tiger god, perhaps he'll immediately go and try take it for himself. The behavior of the Lord may be despicable, but he really is a great genius. At least, he is the only person of the Tianyuan continent who can resist against the king of beast god continent. Perhaps in the future when the beast god continent invades, we'll need to rely on the path lord to fend him off." Houston muttered to himself. "AI." Tianjian sighed softly and waved his hands. "Houston, our conversation today ends here. In the future when the beast god continent displays signs of movement, we can discuss about it with the people from the 10 guardian clans. Anyway, the better kept the secret of the winged tiger god, the better it is for the Tianyuan continent. As for the current moment, we should pour all our power into the growth of the winged tiger god. Right now, it's just too weak. These years, your mercenary city should have amassed a lot of heavenly material treasures, so giving your mercenary city the task of helping the winged tiger god grow is most suitable. Also, you should stay behind and handle the rest of the stuff that happened here. You're more suitable than me." Finishing his sentence, Houston turned around and disappeared through the space gate. As for Tianjian, he just stood there. Tianjian looked at the unconscious Jian Chen on the ground with a complicated gaze. Afterwards, he sighed lightly, and with a wave of his hand, Jian Chen and the winged tiger god immediately began to float, passing through a space gate behind Tianjian. Amidst the flame mercenaries, Ming Dong's group currently remained gathered together in the hall, anxious to find a way to save Jian Chen. Even though they had several saint rulers around, they were weak like ants in front of a saint king. Even if they worked together, they definitely were not a saint king's opponent. Just at this moment, the space in the hall suddenly began to warp without any prior warnings. Before anyone could react, a space gate quickly formed and Tianjian gently floated out of it. Beside his side, the unconscious Jian Chen was entrusted to an invisible power, slowly lowered to the ground. "Uncle Tian." Seeing the middle-aged man, Ming Dong was greatly excited and immediately began to call out aloud. Shortly afterwards, he rushed and grabbed Tianjian's arm affectionately. He glanced over at the heavily injured and unconscious Jian Chen. "Uncle Tian, you've finally come. I just know you were going to appear. How is Jian Chen? Is he okay?" Facing Ming Dong, Tianjian struggled to maintain his indifferent expression and could not help but reveal a warm smile. He looked at Ming Dong lovingly. "Child, you don't need to worry. Jian Chen is fine." Towards Ming Dong, Tianjian showed extra affection. "I pay respects to the Grand Elder." Jeditai and newbies both recognized Tianjian. Without any more delays, they immediately bowed. Their expressions were filled with respect. Junior Bai Hai pays respects to Grand Elder. "I thank the Grand Elder very much for saving my great-grandson." Bai Hai did not hesitate at all and bowed respectfully to Tianjian. With what had happened last time in the sky about the tungsten alloy mine, he had seen the Grand Elder personally, so he was not unfamiliar as to who he was. Chapter 693. Warning. Tianjian stared at Bai Hai with a rather astonished gaze. He was obviously extremely surprised by the fact that Bai Hai was Jian Chen's grandfather, but he did not continue that topic. He gently waved his hand and said, "Everyone should disperse and find a place for Jian Chen to rest quietly. I know what happened here before. You mustn't tell others about this. Keep that in mind. Junior understands and definitely will not let any part of it leak out." Newbies, Jeditai and the others all said respectfully with their hands clasped. Afterwards, Ming Dong personally carried Jian Chen into his bedroom, while Tianjian, Huang Wan, Yu Yu, Bai Liang, Little Fatty and the others followed behind. Looking at him lying on the bed, unconscious and smeared with blood, Huang Wan, Yu Yu and Bai Lian all began crying painfully. They were some of the people who cared the most for Jian Chen, so Jian Chen's miserable appearance caused the three girls to be deeply pained and heartbroken. Afterwards, Huang Wan immediately removed several Class 6 Radiant Spirit pills from her space ring to feed to Jian Chen, hoping that his injuries would quickly recover. Don't feed it to him. Jian Chen's body is extremely peculiar and possesses very great regeneration abilities. His injuries are currently healing very quickly and he should completely recover without much time. Tianjian stopped what Huang Wan was doing and explained indifferently. Huang Wan paused for a moment, before finally putting the Radiant Spirit pills away. "Uncle Tian, I just knew you would come. This time, we were fortunate to have you, otherwise Jian Chen really would have been in grave danger." Ming Dong looked at Tianjian with gratitude. However, there was still lingering fear. He struggled to imagine just what would happen to Jian Chen if Tianjian did not appear on time. Tianjian smiled. "Jian Chen is a great genius of our Tianyuan continent. His talent is unprecedented and his future achievements have no limit. If such a genius really dies when he is young, our Tianyuan continent would suffer a great loss. Don't worry, your Uncle Tian will not just let Jian Chen be harmed without doing anything." "Uncle Tian, so you've always been secretly protecting Jian Chen." Ming Dong was delighted. With this, did it not mean that Jian Chen would not meet any more life-threatening dangers on the Tianyuan continent? Tianjian smiled, but he did not make any confirming gestures. Actually, ever since he discovered Jian Chen could see and communicate with the barrier spirit of Mercenary City, he had already began to view Jian Chen with great importance and left an extremely obscure imprint on Jian Chen. When Jian Chen's life really was in danger, he would appear and help out. Learning that the Grand Elder of Mercenary City was secretly protecting Jian Chen, Bai Lian, Yu Yu and Huang Wan were secretly delighted. They were extremely happy, because they knew that with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City behind him, it would become Jian Chen's greatest safeguard in the future. Just at this moment, Jian Chen's finger twitched slightly. Shortly afterwards, his eyes slowly opened and he looked around in confusion. When he saw Tianjian, he immediately understood what had happened. With a weak voice, he said hurriedly, "Thank you, Senior, for saving me. Jian Chen, you're finally awake." "Brother, you're awake?" With Jian Chen waking up, it was a pleasant surprise to everyone. They all gathered by Jian Chen's bed to ask about how he felt. They cared for him very much. Jian Chen sat up on the bed with some difficulty. The concern that everyone showed for him filled his heart with warmth. He said, "Everyone doesn't need to worry, I'm fine." With that, Jian Chen suddenly remembered something. He glanced around frantically and only relaxed slightly after seeing the tiger sleeping by his side. He lifted up the white tiger softly and muttered, "Luckily Xiaobai wasn't been taken away by that king from the Gilligan clan. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster." "Jian Chen, just what identity does Xiaobai possess? How did it attract a king from the Gilligan clan to come and take him?" Ming Dong stared at the white tiger and asked curiously. Hearing that, Jian Chen hesitated. It was not because he did not want to tell Ming Dong, but rather he really could not let any more people know about the identity of the white tiger. Seeing how Jian Chen was stuck between a rock and a hard place, Tianjian intervened in time. "Child, you don't need to know about this. You all should forget about what happened before. Don't talk about it in the future. Okay, everyone should get out. I have some things I need to discuss personally with Jianchen. Yes, Uncle Tian. Ming Dong replied obediently, before leaving with his curiosity and everyone else. However, after what had happened, everyone already knew that the identity of the white tiger was a secret and definitely was not as simple as it seemed. When Ming Dong and the others had left, a clear barrier suddenly appeared, enveloping the entire room. The barrier was created personally by Tianjian, isolating the entire room. Even Saint Kings would not be able to overhear what was being discussed inside. Senior, what do you want to discuss with Junior? Seeing how careful Tianjian was, Jianchen's expression also became serious. Tianjian stared at the tiger in Jianchen's arms with a complicated gaze. Only after some time did he give a soft sigh. Jianchen, there's not much time left. You must let the winged tiger god grow up quickly. Otherwise, your time with it will not last much longer. Jianchen's expression changed slightly. He asked, Senior, has it got to do with the Gilligan clan? This matter is not as simple as you have imagined it. Threats to the winged tiger god come from all directions and they're not necessarily threats you can handle. Tianjian paused for a little before continuing. Looks like there's some things I should explain to you, Jianchen. The Gilligan clan actually is just a chess piece left on the Tian Yuan continent by the beast god continent, and the Gilligan clan trying to obtain the winged tiger god is probably just due to the command of the ruler of the beast god continent. As a result, although the Gilligan clan has been repelled this time, experts from the beast god continent will come to our Tian Yuan continent very soon. Although the threat from the beast god continent will be handled by the guardian clans of the Tian Yuan continent, the matter concerning the winged tiger god is extremely important. If it's leaked out and the guardian clans learn about it, they will definitely be interested in the winged tiger god after they successfully repel the tide of the beast god. At that time, if you don't have enough power, you'll just become a fish, being carved up by anybody. Even my mercenary city will not be able to help you. Tianjian's tone was very serious. Chapter 694. Arrival of Qin Wujin. Although the threat from the beast god continent will be handled by the guardian clans of the Tian Yuan continent, the matter concerning the winged tiger god is extremely important. If it's leaked out and the guardian clans learn about it, they will definitely be interested in the winged tiger god after they successfully repel the forces of the beast god continent. At that time, if you don't have enough power, you'll just become a fish, being carved up by anybody. Even my mercenary city will not be able to help you. Tianjian's tone was very serious. What Tianjian had said was similar to dumping a bucket of cold water on Jianchen's head. It caused his heart to feel extremely cold. Although Jianchen did not know much about the 10 guardian clans, he still understood that the strength of the 10 guardian clans were so great that they had become the guarding force for Tian Yuan continent at the very least. If such a powerful force actually moved against him, he would be as weak as an ant and unable to resist at all, even though he was a saint ruler. Jianchen's expression became extremely solemn. The splendid feeling from successfully escaping from the Gilligan clan member completely disappeared at this moment. Jianchen tightened his embrace of the white tiger cub and gently rubbed the soft fur of the cub unawaringly. The cub was just so pitiful. Even though it was the divine beast of antiquity, it was still a powerless cub. As soon as it was born, it had embarked on such a difficult path. Not only did it lose its father forever, its mother was also heavily injured and forced to leave the Cross Mountains, currently hiding in somewhere unknown. Also, other than this, there were the powerful forces of the beast god continent and the guardian clans that eyed it covetously. It was destined to lead an extremely difficult life. Also, Jianchen did not even know how he could possibly protect the tiger cub in the future when beast god continent and guardian clans started to move. Looking at Jianchen's serious expression, Tianjian sighed softly. There's not much time left, Jianchen. You must quickly get the winged tiger god to mature. Only when you or it is truly powerful do you possess the power to resist the guardian clans. Senior, just what do I need to be able to resist the guardian clans and the beast god continent? Jianchen asked. Before the guardian clans and the beast god continent, only Saint King have the right to speak. and that's only the right to speak. Tianjian stressed the latter part very much. If you want to resist against the guardian clans and the beast god continent, you must be a peak saint king, or even a saint emperor that has exceeded saint kings. Jianchen remained silent for a very long time. A feeling of despair slowly bloomed in his heart. Only saint kings had the right to speak to the guardian clans. Afterwards, Tianjian explained some things to Jianchen again, before leaving through a space gate that had formed when he directly ripped open the space, leaving Jianchen to stare blankly in bed with the tiger cub in his hands. Jianchen sat in bed and stared blankly for 2 hours, before finally returning to his senses as the tiger cub woke up from its slumber. The tiger cub had already gained intelligence, so when it woke up and realized the bloodstains on Jianchen's clothing, it immediately gave out constant purr as it stared at Jianchen with its bright little eyes. It seemed to be caring for him, feeling sorry for him, or even giving out sounds of crying. Jianchen used his hand to softly rub the cub's small head. He stared into the cub's small, bright, sincere eyes with a complicated gaze and said softly, "Poor Xiaobai, perhaps such peaceful times will not last much longer." The cub blinked and stared at Jianchen vacantly. It did not seem to understand just what Jianchen was talking about. Seeing how innocent-looking Xiaobai was, Jianchen sighed softly from the bottom of his heart. Afterwards, he took out a large pile of 1,000-year heavenly resources and placed them in front of Xiaobai without holding back in the slightest. He said, "Xiaobai, you should quickly eat all of it. Don't waste any time, you must quickly increase your strength." The tiger cub did not even listen to what Jianchen said. Its 2 small, bright eyes had landed on the large pile as soon as it appeared, and excitement flashed across its eyes. It gave out a cry of happiness and immediately dived into the pile of heavenly resources. It began munching on them with an expression of happiness. Very soon, over 20 of the 1,000-year heavenly resources were all consumed by the cub. After eating it all, the tiger cub gave a satisfied burp before closing its eyes. It lay down on the bed without moving, falling asleep to digest the heavenly resources again. Jianchen stared at the sleeping cub for a while, before carrying it gently out of the room. In a guest room, Ming Dong and a group of people currently gathered there. They were currently waiting and none of them had left. When Jianchen appeared, he was immediately discovered by the people who had spent the entire time waiting. He was instantly surrounded by them, and they all asked about his health. They cared for Jianchen very much. Feeling the concern from everyone for himself, Jianchen could not help but feel the warmth in his heart. He said, "Everyone doesn't need to worry. I've already fully recovered." The regeneration ability of the chaotic body really was shocking. After just a little more than 2 hours, the injury from the Gilligan clan member had already fully recovered. Right now, other than the fact that Jianchen's clothes were still covered by blood, he was already fine. Afterwards, they asked about everything. Chapter 695, Troubles of the Tianqin Clan, 1. Jianchen showered and changed into clean clothes before heading towards the hall to see Qin Wujin. When he arrived, Ming Dong, Yu Yu and Bai Lian were currently talking with Qin Wujin. Seeing Jianchen walk over, Qin Wujin immediately stopped his conversation and stood up. He bowed respectfully to Jianchen and said, "Qin Wujin pays respects to the Imperial Protector." Jianchen laughed gently. He did not go up and sit at the end of the table, but instead just sat down casually. "Qin Wujin, you don't need to be so polite. I wonder, why have you hailed from the distant Jessen kingdom to come here?" Qin Wujin did not ramble and got straight to the point, reporting to the Imperial Protector. The 4 other Imperial Protectors have invited Imperial Protector Jianchen to pay a visit Qinhuang kingdoms. There are important matters to be discussed. Hearing that, Jianchen was slightly surprised. He pondered over it shortly before asking Qin Wujin with bright eyes, "Qin Wujin, do you know just what the 4 Imperial Protectors want to discuss with me?" Qin Wujin shook his head with a bitter smile, "That I do not know of." Jianchen lowered his head and thought for a while. He could not help but think over the fishy occurrences at Qinhuang Kingdom, which clearly pointed to the fact that something important was about to happen. He nodded. "I understand, I will quickly head to the Qinhuang Kingdom." Qin Wujin stood up from his seat and clasped his hands, Sir Imperial Protector, since the message has already been conveyed, Qin Wujian's mission is also complete. I will be leaving first and returning to guard Jessen Kingdom. Qin Wujian did not stay for long. He left the Flame Mercenaries to return to the Jessen Kingdom as soon as he conveyed the message to Jianqin. Jianqin, the Imperial Protectors of Qinhuang Kingdom definitely have already learnt that you became a saint ruler. Since they want you back so suddenly, might it be because something bad is about to happen? Mingdong guessed. Jianqin nodded slightly. I've had that premonition long ago. Perhaps the Qinhuang Kingdom has encountered some problems. It just happens to be that there isn't anything major happening with the Flame Mercenaries, so I'll pay a visit to the Qinhuang Kingdom sometime. I want to know just why exactly the 4 Imperial Protectors are looking for me. Brother, you must be careful about that Gilligan clan. Although Senior Tianjian has repelled that king of the Gilligan clan, who can guarantee that they will not send other people to go against you. In my opinion, you should take Senior Newbies, Senior Jeditai and Grandpa with you on this trip to the Qinhuang Kingdom. Bai Lian said with concern. Jianqin shook his head. Liener, you don't need to worry. With your brother's current strength, basically anyone below a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler is no longer a threat. And if I do happen to meet people stronger than that, they won't be able to do much, even if I brought them along. Also, what happened before with the Gilligan clan has alerted Senior Tian, so members of the Gilligan clan definitely won't step onto the Tian Yuan continent again. How can your brother be in danger? Bai Lian realized it was indeed true, so she stopped persuading him. However, she could not help but repeatedly warn Jianqin about being safe. The news of the Gilligan clan member intruding into the Flame Mercenaries did not spread and was completely locked in, all because the magical beast did not create too large of a commotion. Otherwise, if he did make a scene, everyone would have known about it and it would become very difficult to prevent the spreading. Jianqin spent a night at the Flame Mercenaries. In the morning of the next day, he exited the resting room with the tiger cub and bid farewell to everybody outside. Jianqin, come back early. Remember to be careful on your way. Right now, you've pulled really ahead of me, but the 3-year period is almost coming to an end. After you leave, I'll immediately go into isolated cultivation and try break through to a heavenly saint master before you come back. Ming Dong said carefully. Reaching the end, his tone contained excitement and expectation that he struggled to conceal. He had already anticipated becoming a heaven saint master for 3 years. 5 minutes later, Jianqin departed with the sleeping tiger cub in his hands in front of everyone. He traveled using spatial force, where he seemed to transform into a bolt of lightning, rushing up to a high altitude at an unbelievable speed. He immediately arrived at an altitude of several kilometers, before fusing with the surrounding space. He turned into a blur, flying off into the distance at an even greater speed, and in a breath's time, he had completely disappeared. Jianqin sped up and soared freely through the vast sky. Looking down at the blurry landscape of mountains and rivers below, he actually relaxed slightly, and the psychological pressure from the Beast God continent and Guardian clans slowly decreased. After close to a day of traveling, the setting sun was finally about to disappear. Jianqin arrived at Walorant City and descended several kilometers away from the city, entering it by foot. He only went to Walorant City because he wanted to visit the first young master of the Tianqin clan, Qin Shao, who he had not seen in quite a while. Last time when he went to Longevity Valley to pick up Little Fatty, he wanted to go straight to Walorant City to take Qin Shao along with him. However, at that time, the tungsten alloy mine had been exposed and the Flame Mercenaries were endangered. Time was extremely tight, which was why he could not take Qin Shao and instead directly took the space gate in Qinhuang Kingdom back to the Flame Mercenaries. Now, since he was passing through the same path, he had to go pay Qin Shao a visit no matter what, as well as give him an explanation. After all, Jianqin truly regarded Qin Shao as his own brother and not as an outsider. Jianqin entered the city without any obstructions. The hubbub and liveliness of the streets immediately attracted Jianqin's attention, which gave him a feeling of nostalgia. Especially from seeing the busy merchants and tired-looking mercenaries on the streets, Jianqin could not help but think about how he was before. He immediately sighed in his heart. Several years ago, was he not the same as those people? He was busy every day, walking beside life and death in the forests full of magical beasts, to battle so hard for his own future. It could be said that every expert had walked down a bloody road formed from the corpses of countless lives. Unknowingly, Jian Chen had already arrived before the front door of the Tianqin clan. This time, he did not even need to use his presence to clearly feel where Qin Shao was. At this moment, Qin Shao was with a large group of people in the conference hall of the Tianqin clan. They seemed to be discussing something important, and even the atmosphere of the entire hall seemed rather heavy. At the same time, Jian Chen could also feel that in the Tianqin clan, there seemed to be a solemn atmosphere. Even the guards at the door had been increased by a lot. Jian Chen swaggered into the estate, but the guards at the entrance did not seem to discover that he existed at all. Even their eyes did not move, allowing Jian Chen to enter through the front door extremely easily. It was as if Jian Chen was completely ignored by them. Jian Chen swaggered into the courtyard of the Tianqin clan as he was fused with the world. Even though he brushed past many people, no one noticed him. Very soon, Jian Chen arrived at the hall of the Tianqin clan. Just at this moment, his fusion with the world silently disappeared and here turned to normal. All the people in the hall immediately noticed the unwelcomed intruder. It caused them to all be slightly surprised. However, there were clearly many people who recognized Jian Chen, since as soon as they saw his face clearly, they could not help but stare blankly before recovering their slight seriousness. "Brother Jian Chen, you've actually come. Weird, how did you get in? Why weren't there any guards to report to me?" Qin Shao immediately stood up from his seat and arrived in front of Jian Chen happily. Chapter 696, Troubles of the Tianqin Clan, 2, Jian Chen said with a smile, "Brother Qin Shao, Jian Chen has come without any warning, so he may be interrupting you." "Hee, it's fine, it's fine. Brother Jian Chen is a valued guest of my Tianqin clan. The welcomes you very much." Qin Zhao's father, the patriarch of the Tianqin clan, stood up from his chair and said kindly. He then extended his hand to gesture at an empty seat not far away. "Brother Jian Chen, please sit, please sit." Jian Chen clasped his hands with a smile. "Many thanks, patriarch." Afterwards, Jian Chen did not hold back, directly walking over to the empty seat and sitting down. With Jian Chen's arrival, the heavy atmosphere of the hall became slightly warmer. The many high-ranking Tianqin clan members would glance at Jian Chen from time to time. They seemed to be interested in him and were thinking about something. After sweeping his gaze around the entire hall, Jian Chen hesitated slightly before clasping his hands at the patriarch who sat at the end of the table. "Patriarch, everyone seems to be worried and heavy-hearted. Perhaps you've encountered a troublesome problem?" The patriarch sighed lightly. "Brother Jian Chen is correct. My Tianqin clan currently is indeed facing a few troubles. I wonder if the patriarch can tell me about it. Qin Shao is one of the best brothers of Jian Chen. Even if you have encountered problems, Jian Chen will do his best to help out in favor of brother Qin Shao." What Jian Chen had said secretly raised Qin Zhao's position in the Tianqin clan. Even though he already knew about Qin Shao's current strength and the fact that he would be the next patriarch, his actions still helped Qin Shao very much. Hearing what Jian Chen had said, Qin Shao, who sat on the other side, could not help but feel warm. He gazed at Jian Chen with gratitude and secretly thought that he indeed was not in the wrong for having such a brother. What Jian Chen had said created some unavoidable changes to many of the people in the hall in regards to Qin Shao. The Qin surnamed people looked at Qin Shao delightfully, while the gazes of the Tian surnamed member became slightly complicated, with various emotions like envy mixed in. Meanwhile, the patriarch observed everyone's expressions without any change in his own. He laughed aloud. "Brother Jian Chen, for Shower to have such a friend like you is Shower's honor. This time, the trouble my Tianqin clan has encountered perhaps really does require brother Jian Chen's assistance. Qin'er's safety will completely depend on brother Jian Chen." Jian Chen's interest was piqued, and so he asked, "Patriarch, perhaps something has happened to Miss Qin Qin?" Qin Qin was the young lady of the Tianqin clan. The happy expression of the patriarch gradually disappeared. He nodded solemnly. "Brother Jian Chen has guessed correctly. Qin'er has indeed encountered some problems this time." Chapter 697. The Flood Dragon Bandits. Currently, the great elders of my Tianqin clan have already gone to Coiled Dragon Mountain to negotiate with the boss of the Flood Dragon Bandits in attempt to save Qin. But we don't know what the outcome is, and if the negotiation fails, Qin will. Reaching the end, the patriarch of the Tianqin clans secretly sighed. The Flood Dragon Bandits were so strong that even the Zhuya kingdom did not dare to casually provoke them, so if the negotiation failed, Qin could only be forced into marriage with the son of the Flood Dragon Bandits' boss. Qin Shao suddenly stood up and said, "No, we have to save sister no matter what. She definitely can't marry the son of that bandit boss, or her life will be completely ruined." "Shower, sit down. You need to understand the current situation. How can you be so hot-headed and attempt to do something above your abilities? If you act recklessly, you'll pull the Tianqin clan into eternal damnation." The patriarch of the Tianqin clan swiftly looked at Qin Shao and scolded him with a low voice. Qin Zhao's position as the future patriarch of the Tianqin clan was something already established, so he did not allow his son to be so hot-headed. "Father, do we really have to watch sister getting married to a bandit while we can't do anything?" Qin Shao refuted unrelentingly. The patriarch sighed, "Shower, don't worry right now. The great elders have already headed to Coiled Dragon Mountain for negotiations and should return very soon. Who knows, perhaps there is still chance to save Qin." As soon as he finished speaking, Jianchen felt two powerful presences approach the Tianqin clan from far away. In the end, they entered the Tianqin clan, heading directly for the hall. Jianchen saw two elderly but ruddy men in long white robes walk in. On their faces, they revealed a sliver of helplessness and regret mixed in with some anger. All the high-ranking members of the Tianqin clan sitting in the hall stood up and clasped their hands respectfully at the two great elders. "We greet the great elders." Jianchen sat without moving in his seat and gazed indifferently at the two great elder. He was unfamiliar with the two great elders as neither of them were the person who had accompanied them to Mercenary City. "Two great elders, I wonder how the negotiations went. Were the Flood Dragon Bandits willing to release my sister?" Qin Shao stared at the two great elders anxiously. The two of them carried all the hope there was. A great elder shook his head. "The boss of the Flood Dragon Bandits is determined in making Qin marry his son. Even with the generous request we had mentioned, they were unwilling." Qin Shao began to become gloomy. He clenched his fists tightly and fumed with gritted teeth. "Since the Flood Dragon Bandits are unwilling to let my sister go, we have to make them pay a big price." Chapter 698. Going to Coiled Dragon Mountain. However, thinking about it again, when the third great elder remembered how Jianchen had a close connection to Mercenary City and the descendants of a few hermit clans, he immediately rejoiced. If Jianchen invited the experts from the hermit clans, the problem caused by the Flood Dragon Bandits would cease to exist. Not only could they save the kidnapped lady and protect the Tianqin clan's dignity, it would also allow the Tianqin clan's influence to greatly increase. Perhaps this brother is the mercenary king who placed first in the previous gathering of mercenaries, as well as Jianchen who had slaughtered 4 Heaven Saint Master outside Mercenary City all by himself? The other two great elders clearly had heard Jianchen's name before. They were slightly surprised and asked out of shock. "Correct, eldest brother, second brother, this brother is the mercenary king. This brother's talent is so outstanding that a few years ago, he was still an Earth Saint Master and now he's already become an expert at the same level as us. Anything is possible for his future accomplishments." The third elder praised with a smile. With this, the gazes of the two great elders underwent great changes. They had already heard about this and knew that although the youth before them was young, his strength had already reached a level equal to them, or even greater than them, able to kill 4 experts of the same level all by himself. "Brother Jianchen, do you really have the power to save my sister?" Qin Shao asked. Ever since he learned about just how strong the Flood Dragon Bandits were from his father, he no longer believed that Jianchen, along with the 3 great elders, possessed the strength to fight the bandits. Jianchen nodded his head seriously. "Don't worry, I will definitely save Lady Qin. Brother Jianchen, if you can invite the experts from the Dugu clan, then saving Qin, that girl won't be a problem. the third great elder said. Hearing what he said, Jianchen shook his head with a slight smile. Perhaps the great elders of the Tianqin clan did not know about the flame mercenaries, or in other words, they did not know about his current strength. However, when he thought about the distance between the Tianqin clan and the flame mercenaries, he immediately understood why. The flame mercenaries indeed were very well known, but it was still rather difficult for their fame to be known in the area where the Tianqin clan was. After all, they were still not as well known as Mercenary City or the 8 Great Kingdoms. There's no need to ask the people of the Dugu clan. Just I myself will be enough to save Lady Qin from the Flood Dragon bandits. Jianchen said confidently. Since Brother Jianchen is so confident, then the 3 of us will risk it. We'll go with Brother Jianchen. A great elder of the Tianqin clan said. Although he didn't know Jianchen's exact strength, when he thought about Jianchen's magnificent feat outside Mercenary City, he could not help but feel more confident. Perhaps the junior really did possess the strength to save the young lady from the Flood Dragon bandits. This time, it's a matter of regaining the dignity of my Tianqin clan. My Tianqin clan must go with an extravagant display. Only with that can we maintain our dignity and status. The patriarch of the Tianqin clan said heroically. He was extremely confident in Jianchen. After everyone made up their mind, the Tianqin clan immediately began their operations. They formed a 1,000-man squad and under the leadership of the 3 great elders, they left the Tianqin clan with great vigor. As the group walked through the streets, it caused everyone to stop and look. They all wondered about just what the number 1 clan of Valorant City was off to do with such an extravagant display. The Tianqin clan did not conceal their purpose. Very soon, the news of them heading towards Coiled Dragon Mountain to fight the Flood Dragon bandits became widely spreading throughout the entire Valorant City without much time at all. For a moment, all who had heard the news were stupefied. The Flood Dragon bandits were a force that would even cause several of the surrounding kingdoms to fear. The Tianqin clan may have been the biggest clan of Valorant City, but they were far too weak compared to the Flood Dragon bandits. Right now, they were actually overconfident enough to go fight the Flood Dragon bandits. It was basically like throwing eggs at a rock. Basically, all the people who had heard of the news could imagine the outcome for the Tianqin clan. No one believed that the Tianqin clan really possessed the strength to fight the Flood Dragon bandits. The 1,000-man squad from the Tianqin clan left Valorant City with great vigor before immediately heading towards Coiled Dragon Mountain at great speed. With our speed, we should be able to arrive at Coiled Dragon Mountain before Sister is married. But we still should hurry just in case. Qin Xiao said with a deep voice. Afterwards, the squad increased their speed again. The large squad rode magical beasts across the plains hurriedly and by night time, they had arrived at the borders of Zhuya Kingdom. Afterwards, they traveled straight towards the south. In the morning 2 days later, the squad from the Tianqin clan finally stopped in front of a towering mountain. The patriarch of the Tianqin clan explained to Jianchen, Brother Jianchen, this is Coiled Dragon Mountain. It's very steep here and extremely difficult to climb. There is only one path that leads to the peak. The Flood Dragon bandits have their base at the peak. Chapter 699. Protectors of Heaven and Earth. Hearing what was said, Jianchen gazed at the mountain before him. Coiled Dragon Mountain towered from the ground like a pyramid, with a wide base and narrow peak. Its peak extended into the clouds and from afar, it seemed just like a huge, coiled-up dragon with its head stretching deep into the clouds. As for the surroundings of Coiled Dragon Mountain, it was just like how the patriarch of the Tianqin clan had described. It was very steep with many sheer cliffs and rock faces. Also, the entire mountain was covered in thistles, taking up every inch of the ground, which made it essentially impossible to scale. What abundant energy of the world! The energy of the world here is actually twice as dense as other places. If you cultivate here, it may not be as fast as directly absorbing monster core, but it'll definitely be much faster than outside. Jianchen stared at the top of the mountain, and the closer you get to the peak, the more abundant the energy of the world becomes. This Coiled Dragon Mountain is a spirit mountain where energy of the world naturally gathers. It's a great place to found a sect, But too bad it's taken up by a bunch of thugs. What a pity. Yeah, Coiled Dragon Mountain is the most well-known mountain in the area. There aren't any other spirit mountains better than Coiled Dragon Mountain nearby, so it once caused countless forces in the area to become green with envy. Too bad they weren't able to take it over from the Flood Dragon bandits. A great elder said. Hearing that, Jian Chen pondered for a while before speaking. Since Coiled Dragon Mountain is so valuable, has your Tianqin clan ever thought of taking over it? Of course, the energy on the Spirit Mountain is twice as abundant elsewhere. Just which force hasn't been interested in it? But the strength of the Flood Dragon bandits deters everyone, only allowing them to just gaze at the mountain from afar. This time, the speaker was the patriarch. His gaze at the mountain contained unconcealed desire. Jian Chen shot a glance at the patriarch and smiled slightly. Such a good spirit mountain doesn't deserve to be in the hands of bandits who only know how to pillage. Otherwise, it'll just endanger even more people. Since your Tianqin clan is interested in occupying this mountain, I'll help you out and gift the mountain to you after we take it. It's not early, we should head up. Jian Chen ignored the stupefied gazes of the patriarch and the three great elders. He hurried the Class 4 magical beast beneath him towards the only mountain path. Brother, did I hear wrong? Jian Chen actually wants to rid the mountain of the bandits and gift the mountain to the Tianqin clan? The second great elder murmured as he stared at Jian Chen's back in the distance. The great elder referred to as brother was also stupefied by what Jian Chen has said. He stared at Jian Chen with bewilderment and said softly, "We don't know what level Jian Chen has reached. Is he really confident enough to handle the boss of the Flood Dragon bandits? The boss's strength is so great that he's basically the strongest beneath Saint Rulers. Perhaps Jian Chen still doesn't understand the bandit boss's strength?" Hearing the discussion between the two, the third great elder hesitated for a while before joining in. Big brother, second brother, I don't think Jian Chen is the type to be arrogant and conceited. Perhaps he was something he can rely on. Let's not discuss anymore and follow and see. We'll know soon enough if Jian Chen has the strength to fight the bandit boss. This time, Jian Chen led the way with the three great elders following closely while the 1,000-man squad from the Tianqin clan followed behind them. With great vigor, the squad traveled on a winding, 3-meter-wide path, heading towards the mountain peak. As for the thicket and thorns beside the path, as well as the quiet forests, roars of beasts could be heard from time to time. However, Jian Chen knew very well that the roars in the forests were not actually made by wild beasts, but imitated by humans. They used a special method to transmit it throughout the entire mountain. On top of the mountain, a manor completely composed of marble sat on a patch of flat land. At this very moment, the interior of the manor was covered in red paper and many people in different attires busied themselves inside. With the shouts from the people managing, great red lanterns and firecrackers were constantly hung up around the area, filling the manor with a cheerful atmosphere. It was extremely lively. Suddenly, a painted-faced youth in a wolf leather jacket hurried in, heading directly towards the deepest part of the manor. Finally, he stopped outside a heavily guarded hall. He knelt on one knee and said, "To the boss, I have something important to report." "Speak." A heavy, extremely dignified voice echoed from the hall. From the voice, it was rather easy to tell that the speaker was a middle-aged man. "Boss, there's a group of people at the bottom of the mountain currently heading towards the peak. There's roughly 1,000 people." The youth said respectfully. "If I'm not wrong, they should be the Tianqin clan from Walorant City in the Zhuya Kingdom." The dignified voice echoed from the hall once again. However, it contained some ridicule this time. Boss has incredible foresight, actually guessing it with his first try. Nothing can be hidden from boss. The message-bearing youth hurried to butter up to the boss. A cold, unrestrained laughter rang out from the hall. "It's already been several centuries since outsiders have come to my Coiled Dragon Mountain, and right now, the Tianqin clan has the greatest possibility of coming. I just never thought that this Tianqin clan would pluck up some courage and think that they can threaten my Coiled Dragon Mountain with just those 3 Heaven Saint Masters. What a joke. Send a squad with the 4 protectors of heaven and earth to smash them. Chase them out of my Coiled Dragon Mountain. Yes, boss. Outside the hall, a loud voice erupted with vigor. Wait, it might be bad if we do that. After all, my daughter-in-law is from the Tianqin clan. If I slaughter all the people of the Tianqin clan, it'll be rather hard to justify. Whatever, since they've come, let them participate on my son's marriage. Send the protectors of heaven and earth to receive the guests. The boss changed his mind. Yes. Meanwhile, in a warmly decorated room of the manor, the young lady of the Tianqin clan, Qin Qin, currently sat in front of a dressing table in a red wedding dress. Beside her, 2 female servants applied makeup for her with great attention. Qin Qin stared into the mirror with a complicated gaze. She could not help but remember what had happened a few days ago. Back then, she was on an outing and unexpectedly met people from the Flood Dragon Bandits. Not only did they slaughter all the guards accompanying her, they took her as a prisoner to their base, Coiled Dragon Mountain, before having the bandit boss force her into marriage with his son. Originally, Qin Qin believed that meeting the Flood Dragon Bandits was entirely a coincidence, but she learned from the boss's son that everything was planned and not a coincidence at all. As for the reason why everything had happened, it was because the son of the boss had once seen her at Walorant City and drooled over her beauty. As for being forced into marriage, Qin Qin did not resist because she knew that any resistance was futile and anything done was just useless. However, she had already made up her mind that she would not marry the boss's son no matter what. As soon as she entered the hall where the wedding ceremony was held, she would commit suicide by biting her tongue. She who was clean like jade was unwilling for her body to be contaminated even in the slightest. Even with death, she would protect her sanctity. Father, thank you for all those years of raising me. In this life, this body, Qiner won't be able to repay you. Qiner can only repay in her future life. Please forgive Qiner. Brother, thank you for your care for Qiner. You will always be a great brother in Qiner's mind. Qiner hopes that in her next life, you will still be Qiner's brother. 2 streams of tears flowed from Qiner's eyes without any restraint. Stop. Halfway up the mountain, everyone in the squad of people from the Tianqin clan completely stopped under Jian Chen's indication. Shortly afterwards, 4 Heaven Saint Masters soared quickly from the top of the mountain as they flashed with a special light from the energy of the world. Chapter 700. The bandit boss Jian Chen regarded the 4 demonic generals as nothing and extended a hand to make a gesture to the group behind him, leading them towards the mountain top with great vigor. Hang on! Suddenly, one of the 4 demonic generals called out before descending to the ground. Before all the people from the Tianqin clan, he said indifferently, everyone on my Coiled Dragon Mountain, all outsiders must travel up the mountain by foot, so please dismount from your magical beasts. Hearing that, all the higher-ranking members of the Tianqin clan revealed an extremely ugly expression. If the people of the Tianqin clan really were to dismount and walk to the top of the mountain, it would be a complete embarrassment. For protectors of heaven and earth, your Flood Dragon Bandits really are proud of their reputation and actually want my Tianqin clan to walk to the top of the mountain by foot. A great elder said with a deep voice. That's the only way if you still want to ascend the mountain. If you don't want to, you should just hurry up and leave the mountain. You don't need to participate in the young master's marriage. One of the 4 demonic generals sneered. A cold light flashed across Jian Chen's eyes and he let a powerful killing intent flow from his body without any intention of concealing it. He stared at the 4 demonic generals coldly and sneered, Originally, I didn't intend on fighting you here, but since you're wholeheartedly looking to die, it's not my problem. As soon as he finished speaking, Jian Chen suddenly extended his hand and clenched it. Suddenly, the space around the 4 demonic generals froze, causing them to be tightly trapped inside, completely immobilized. The expressions of the 4 demonic generals changed greatly. They stared at Jian Chen out of surprise and their faces were full of shock. With their knowledge as Heaven Saint Masters, they naturally knew that the ability Jian Chen had just used was controlling spatial force. It was a power that only saint rulers possessed. No matter how they observed the simple-looking teenager before them, they did not think that he was actually already a saint ruler. At that moment, Jianchen thrust a finger forwards and 4 streams of azure and violet sword chi shot out like bolts of lightning, directly striking the center of the 4 demonic generals' eyebrows and piercing their head. Although the 4 people were Heaven's Saint Rulers, there had no power to resist in front of Jianchen, a Saint Ruler. Jianchen's slight twitch of the finger was enough to kill them off entirely. A long stream of blood flowed from the foreheads of all 4 demonic generals, and their eyes soon became lifeless. Shortly afterwards, their bodies fell powerlessly from the sky. They lay on the ground, unmoving. Witnessing what had just happened, it shocked the high-ranking members of the Tianqin clan to the point where they remained speechless for a very long time. Everyone stared blankly at the 4 dead demonic generals on the ground and Jianchen. It was completely silent. The 4 demonic generals of the Flood Dragon Bandits were powerful Heaven's Saint Rulers. Each of them possess extremely great strength, and even if they were compared to the entire Tianyuan continent, they would be regarded as some of the finest experts. Currently, the 4 just died in such a simple fashion in front of them. Such a shocking scene flooded everyone with disbelief. They refused to believe this was real. A while later, a great elder finally returned to his senses. He stared at Jianchen with a face full of shock and cried out, "Before, that was the power of controlling space. That's an ability only possessed by Saint Rulers who have comprehended the mysteries of the world. Brother Jianchen, perhaps you've already..." The great elder could not help but blabber. As for the final words, he did not dare to say it aloud. To all Heaven Saint Masters, Saint Ruler was a level that seemed to be inaccessible, because the mysteries of the world were just too hard to comprehend. It could not be reached just with talent in cultivation. This was why there were so many Heaven Saint Masters on the Tianyuan continent, basically with a few in every small kingdom, while Saint Rulers were extremely rare. It was even very difficult for a Saint Ruler to appear from 100 Heaven Saint Rulers. Jianchen swung his hand and the 4 corpses blocking the path immediately disappeared into the thicket on the both sides. At the same time, 4 space rings flew into Jianchen's hand with great speed. Jianchen put the things in the space rings away without even looking at them. He did not proceed to explain his strength. The path's already been cleared. Let's continue. As soon as he finished, Jianchen traveled towards the top of the mountain. Behind him, the 3 great elders and a few high-ranking members looked at each other in the eyes. Great waves brewed in the hearts of everyone, and none of them were able to calm down even after a long while. They said nothing at all, only following silently behind Jianchen towards the top of the mountain. Who would have thought Jianchen's already become a Saint Ruler? Xiao really is honored to have such a powerful friend. With this, no one can shift his position in the clan. The patriarch of the Tianqin clan thought as he stared at Jianchen's back. As for the following journey, all was peaceful. Jianchen and the people from the Tianqin clan arrived at the peak of Coiled Dragon Mountain smoothly. As there was no commotion with the deaths of the 4 demonic generals, no one knew that they had died. Everywhere at the peak of Coiled Dragon Mountain was well decorated. Not only was the manor essentially covered in red paper cuttings of the word happiness and red cloth, even the trees outside the manor were decorated with red lanterns and long strings of firecrackers. As soon as Jianchen's group arrived at the peak, an elderly man who seemed like a housekeeper immediately came over to receive them. He said indifferently, "Guests, the boss has already been waiting for a long time inside. Please come with me." Jianchen scanned across the manor clad in cuttings and lanterns. "No need to go in, just hurry up and release the young lady of the Tianqin clan. I can let you all off alive." The elderly man's expression changed. He swept across all the people and sneered, "Looks like everyone did not come to participate in young master's wedding. This servant will immediately inform the boss about sir's intentions." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left, disappearing very quickly into the manor. As soon as the housekeeper disappeared, a great group of people arrived from all directions. They surrounded the people of the Tianqin clan, and none of them possessed any good intention. As for the middle-aged man who led them, he was another Heaven Saint Master. "Everyone, I hope you don't act blindly without any thought. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." the leading middle-aged man said with a forced smile. Jian Chen shot an indifferent glance at the leading man. He did not pay any more attention to him after that. With Jian Chen's current strength, he was not inclined to fight Heaven Saint Masters, unless they did some things that crossed the line. The elderly man informed the boss very quickly. Not long after, the boss of the Flood Dragon Bandits walked out of the manor with a great group behind him. The boss of the Flood Dragon Bandits, renowned for his battle prowess, was a middle-aged man. He seemed to be around 40 years of age and was tall and sturdy. He wore a tight-fitting, blue garment and naturally possessed the bearing of a highly regarded person. On his large, rather tanned face, there was an eye-catching scar, which made him seem even more vicious. The boss stood at the gate of the manor and stared coldly at all the people from the Tianqin clan. He smiled. "In-law, who would have thought that you'd come from so far away to participate in your young lady and my son's wedding? It's really surprised me. As soon as I heard in-law was coming to my coiled dragon mountain, I immediately sent the 4 protectors of heaven and earth to receive the guests. If there has been any areas of negligence, I beg for your forgiveness. In-laws, please come in quickly, the wedding is starting very soon." Li Haolong, you really do like to talk big. My Tianqin clan is no in-law to you, bandit. A great elder snorted coldly. Now that they had a saint ruler backing them up, they did not fear the Flood Dragon Bandits at all. The boss of the bandits laughed aloud and did not care too much about what the great elder had said. This was because he had already foreseen such a situation. He immediately swept his gaze across the people, but he could not help but be slightly surprised. Where are the 4 protectors of heaven and earth? Why haven't they come up with you? The 4 demonic generals were the 4 protectors of heaven and earth in the Flood Dragon Bandits, while they were referred to as demonic generals by other people. This was due to the fact that not only were they powerful, they slaughtered people as they wished. Their hands were dyed with blood of the countless people who they had killed, which was why they were referred to as the 4 demonic generals by other people. Li Haolong, you don't need to look for the 4 demonic generals. They'll never appear again because the 4 of them are already dead at the bottom of the mountain. A great elder sneered. Hearing what was said, the boss was immediately surprised. He shot a swift but forceful glance at the great elder who had spoken and said with a low voice, "What did you say? The 4 protectors of heaven and earth are already dead at the bottom of the mountain?" The bandits who surrounded the people of the Tianqin clan were also stupefied by what the great elder had said. They all looked at each other and were unsure with whether it was true or not. This was because in the Flood Dragon Bandits, the 4 protectors of heaven and earth were very well known. If you don't believe it, you can send people to go down and search. It won't be too hard for them to find their corpses. The great elder stared at the boss and replied with another sneer. "Impossible. With the strength of your Tianqin clan, you definitely can't kill the 4 protectors without making a commotion." The boss of the Flood Dragon Bandits did not believe it. Shortly afterwards, he noticed something and suddenly glanced at Jian Chen. His eyes exploded with interest and he stared at Jian Chen very fiercely. He asked with a low voice, "Sir, who are you?" He stared coldly at Jian Chen and a gleam of light flashed across his eyes. With a soft voice, he said, "Elder Lug, bring me the brat's tongue." "Yes, boss." The elder responded excitedly and walked forwards while staring at Jian Chen fiercely. Great battle intent poured from his body without any intention of concealing it, and he yelled, "Brat, your mouth is too cocky. If you keep it, it'll drag you to your death someday. Let Grandpa Lug handle this problem for you. Leave your tongue behind." Surging saint force appeared from the elderly man's right hand, quickly forming a half-meter-long, hook-like saint weapon. Afterwards, the man leapt up, shooting towards Jian Chen like a lightning bolt. He used the hook-shaped saint weapon in his hand to stab at Jian Chen's mouth. The 3 great elders sat calmly on their magical beasts without any intention of getting involved. At the same time, they did not worry at all, as they had already witnessed Jian Chen's strength. They all knew that the Flood Dragon Bandits, so renowned and dreaded by several of the surrounding kingdoms, were as weak as ants in Jian Chen's eyes, unable to form any threat to him at all. The Flood Dragon bandits have acted as tyrants for several centuries with no one ever brave enough to provoke them. Now they've finally stirred up a hornet's nest. The patriarch of the Tianqin clan hid behind Jianchen. He stared at the Flood Dragon bandits in delight, unworried about Jianchen's safety at all. Seeing the elderly man who shot towards him, a harsh light flickered in Jianchen's eyes. Only when the hook-shaped saint weapon approached his body did he raise his right hand unhurriedly. The action seemed to be very slow, but the speed was actually unbelievably fast. It seemed to surpass the distance of space, tightly grasping the old man's hook-like saint weapon with lightning speed. The old man's charging body came to a screeching stop. His entire body floated in the air, maintaining his previous posture of lunging at Jianchen. This was not because Jianchen had used spatial force to bind the man, but a phenomenon caused by the old man's front lunge. Seeing how his saint weapon was grabbed by the youth in his 20s, the old man was slightly surprised. Afterwards, he sneered and the saint force in his body immediately erupted into a surge, gathering in the saint weapon. It immediately caused the saint weapon to glow brightly, an attempt to heavily injure Jianchen's hand with his powerful saint force. Although Jianchen's head was tender and slender, it was currently like a huge clamp, tightly trapping the old man's saint weapon. No matter how the old man channeled his saint force, he was unable to break free from Jianchen's grasp, much less injure his hand. How is this possible? Perhaps his hand can neutralize by attacks with saint force? The old man was no longer able to maintain his calmness from before, overcome by shock. The situation before him was completely different from the outcome he had imagined, which made him unable to accept it. A gleam of light flashed across the bandit's boss's eyes who stood nearby. He said with a soft voice, "This person invited by the Tianqin clan really does have some ability. But if this is all he can do, he won't be able to leave Coiled Dragon Mountain alive today. The defense of his body might be very tough, but before a heaven-tier battle skill, it's no different from tofu." Suddenly, Jianchen used some strength, actually forcefully snapping the old man's saint weapon. Saint weapons were connected to the lives of their owner, so as the saint weapon broke, the old man also suffered an extremely great backlash. He felt like as if his heart was suddenly crushed by someone, immediately causing blood to spray from his mouth. In that moment, his complexion paled. He was already heavily injured. Elder Lug. The sudden mishap caused all the people of the Flood Dragon bandits to be surprised. Two elders immediately leapt up from behind the boss in attempt to same the old man with the broken saint weapon. A sneer formed at the corner of Jianchen's lips. He did not plan on letting Elder Lug go, so he shot his palm towards the elder's head with lightning speed. "Stop! Stop!" The two old men who were rushing over both called out. However, Jianchen ignored their voices and placed his palm onto Elder Lug's forehead with great speed. A sliver of chaotic force entered Elder Lug's brain which wiped out his soul. The elder's eyes quickly became glazed, before flopping onto the ground. "Brat, you're looking to die. I'll make you pay for Elder Lug's life." Two old men clearly had a good relationship with Elder Lug. They roared angrily at Jianchen as they stared at him with bloodshot eyes. Afterwards, they continued Jianchen without any change in speed, stabbing at the center of Jianchen's eyebrows and throat with their swords. Jianchen stared coldly without any mercy. Only when the two swords approached him did he extend his hands forwards. When his hands came in contact with the saint weapons, they actually completely disintegrated along with the hilt. In the end, Jianchen's two palms landed directly on the chest of the two elders. Bang! With a muffled sound, the chests of the two Heaven Saint Masters immediately caved in. Jianchen's palms did not seem to carry any ripples of energy, but actually hid great power. With just a palm, it had caused all the bones in the two Heaven Saint Masters to be shattered. Even their internal organs turned into mush. The two Heaven Saint Masters of the Flood Dragon bandits both flew backwards, directly colliding with the wall of the manor several dozen meters away. They created two great holes in the walls layered with red paper. The surroundings fell into a deathly silence. Everyone stared at what had happened blankly, and the shock within their hearts had already reached the absolute maximum. The three experts of the Flood Dragon Bandits were actually devastated as soon as they began fighting. Such a powerful strength had deeply shocked every member of the Flood Dragon Bandits. With that, there were no longer any people who dared to mention anything along the lines of teaching Jianchen a lesson. Even the bandits who had surrounded the members of the Tianqin clan began shaking in the knees, all slowly backing off with expressions of fear. "Sir, you actually possess such strength, then you mustn't be some unknown person. I wonder just who are you?" The bandit's boss's expression was solemn as he stared tightly at Jianchen. "I'll ask it one last time. Are you going to release the person or not?" Jianchen did not reply and instead questioned. His tone was icy cold. The bandit boss's expression became gloomy. With that, he really did believe that the four protectors of heaven and earth had died by the hands of Jianchen. However, he did not fear Jianchen in the slightest, because he was extremely confident in his strength. He immediately sneered, "First you kill 5 elders on my coiled dragon mountain, then you heavily injure 2 elders to the point where I'm not even sure if they're still alive. And you're so arrogant. Sir, looks like you've made up your mind in having the Flood Dragon Bandits as your enemy. I admit that you are very strong, but if you want to be presumptuous on my coiled dragon mountain, that's not something that can be done by an ordinary person." A piece of jade had already appeared in the bandit boss's hand. Afterwards, he crushed it without any hesitation, alerting the experts who were currently in long-term secluded cultivation at the rear mountain. Not long after, over a dozen power presences appeared in the rear mountain. 14 Heaven Saint Masters soared in the sky, quickly flying over from the rear mountain. The 14 Heaven Saint Masters were the Flood Dragon Bandits' greatest hidden power. He had been a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master for so long and understood just how difficult it was to become a saint ruler. As a result, he definitely did not believe the youth before him was a powerful saint ruler. He's called Jianchen, perhaps that Jianchen who placed first in the previous gathering of mercenaries? Perhaps he's the mercenary king Jianchen? There was even a rumor before that he slaughtered 4 Heaven Saint Masters outside Mercenary City all by himself. A few of the middle-aged men behind the bandit boss cried out in surprise. With that, all of the bandits know about Jianchen's identity. So he's Jianchen. No wonder he has such strength. Gleams of light wavered in the bandit boss's eyes. What? Mercenary king? This means that this brat should possess a heaven-tier battle skill. As for Jianchen identity, even Li Gui felt slightly flabbergasted. However, a sneer quickly formed on his face with unconcealed greed in his eyes. Jianchen sneered, "I indeed do have quite a few heaven-tier battle skills, though that depends on whether you have the ability to take them from me." As soon as he finished, Jianchen looked away from Li Gui and turned towards the bandit boss. "Bandit boss, looks like you don't decide on releasing the person with such a display. Jianchen, my Flood Dragon Bandits does not want to be enemies with you. It's best if you don't interfere with this matter. If you leave the mountain now, I can forget what happened before. As for releasing the person, that's impossible. If the bride suddenly escapes right before the wedding, where would the dignity of my Flood Dragon Bandits lie?" The bandit boss paused before continuing. "Although you are very strong and normal Heaven Saint Masters struggle to injure you, there are over 20 Heaven Saint Masters on my coiled dragon mountain. Also, Li Gui and I are both peak Heaven Saint Masters. If we fight you together, do you believe you have the power to resist?" As the bandit boss reached the end, a few more Heaven Saint Masters gathered together behind him with the 14 elders. Shortly afterwards, a great presence emanated from their bodies. The presence of over 20 Heaven Saint Masters fused mid-air, forming a great pressure which gushed towards Jianchen. Although they had all witnessed Jianchen's strength, they did not believe Jianchen could fend off over 20 Heaven Saint Masters at the same time, especially the 2 who were peak Heaven Saint Masters. The great presence created by the 20-odd Heaven Saint Masters was unable to approach Jianchen at all. When it arrived a meter in front of Jianchen, it seemed to be stopped by an invisible energy. Jianchen's face became overcast with seriousness. He stared at the opposing Heaven Saint Masters and a powerful killing intent arose from his body. He said with a deep voice, "Since it's like that, Don't blame me for being ruthless." As soon as he finished speaking, the space in front of him suddenly froze. It tightly binded the 20-odd Heaven Saint Masters, including the bandit boss and Li Gui, completely immobilizing them. Feeling the transformation of the surrounding space, all of the Heaven Saint Masters underwent a great change in expression. This is the ability of controlling space, an ability only possessed by powerful saint rulers. Impossible, this is completely impossible. I've been a peak Heaven Saint Master for 400 years and I haven't even comprehended any mysteries of the world. Why are you able to become one before me? Li Gui was greatly flabbergasted and unable to maintain his previous calmness. For the past centuries, he had always wanted to become a supreme saint ruler, but in the end, he did not even touch the edge of the mysteries of the world. As for the unbelievably young youth before him, he had actually already successfully become something he could only dream of. It caused him to be absolutely astounded, unwilling to accept it at all. "Jianchen, you've actually already become a Saint King. How is that possible? You only participated in the gathering of mercenaries not too long ago. You're not even 50, so how did you become a saint ruler so fast?" "No, this is impossible, this is completely impossible." The bandit boss was also greatly astounded and great ripples brewed in his heart. When the surrounding bandits heard that Jianchen had already become a saint ruler, all of them paled from fright as blood completely drained from their faces. Shortly afterwards, without anyone's command, they all threw down their armor and dispersed in an uproar, unwilling to surround the Tianqin clan members anymore. They fled far away, though some who did not fear death stopped at the distance to observe. "It's a pity that you knew too late. Before, I gave you the chance but you didn't appreciate it, so you can't blame me. Today, allow me to purge a tumor from the Tianyuan continent." Powerful killing intent flashed across Jianchen's eyes. He then swung his right hand and invisible world force gathered in that hand. Afterwards, it shot towards the 20-odd Heaven Saint Masters as a blade. All those below Saint Ruler were ants. In front of a powerful Saint Ruler, even 6th Cycle Heaven Saint Masters were unable to escape. When the 20-odd Heaven Saint Masters were struck by the world force, their souls were directly wiped out. Even Li Gui, who was a 6th Cycle Heaven Saint Master, was unable to avoid it. However, when the blade formed from world force arrived before the bandit boss, a dazzling gold light suddenly appeared. It actually neutralized world force, which could only be used by saint rulers. Also, the gold light seemed to possess some mysterious energy, breaking the space frozen by Jianchen and recovering the surrounding space to how it was before. That's the bandit boss's defensive treasure, the golden soft mail. Who would have thought that this soft mail can block attacks of saint rulers? Unbelievable! A great elder could not help but sigh. A sliver of astonishment flashed across Jianchen's eyes. He had heard about the soft mail with great defensive capabilities possessed by the bandit boss, but he never thought that it could actually block his attack of world force and break through the space he had froze. It also caused him to be swamped with disbelief. That's primordial god silk. Master, that personally is actually wearing primordial god silk. That's an extremely rare, high-quality material. Quick, Master, you must obtain it. Ziying's voice resounded his Jianchen's head. At this current moment, Ziying was shouting wildly in Jianchen's mind, as if it had just seen some exceptional treasure. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.